Share. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. It is 5:33 by my watch.
Yeah, it's about what it says on the wall. Uh-oh, I'm glad.
Do we have a sign-in sheet?
I would need a suitcase to carry over my cat. We thought about buying a new one, but we need it. That would do my carry-on.
Just before we get started, make a print it out Okay, so before we get started, Maybeth printed out and passed out a board agenda. It's slightly different than what was posted, not substantive changes, but there's some talking points or questions that are included in this agenda that weren't on the posted one. So we may work that into the discussions, but same subject matter. And you guys should have that as the red print. All right, calling the meeting to order. It is 5:35. Yes, I'm working on it.
Okay.
So, we'll do the pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to call for any conflict of interest statements from the board on any subjects that are being discussed tonight. Do we have any? Okay. And we'll do public comment, starting with Steve Schellenberg.
I gotta go.
Oh, just where everybody can hear you.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Good. My name is Steve Schellenberg. I live at 13910 Primavera. And you guys may have seen some pictures in the paper about a bulkhead there. And I'm not a person that comes to one of these things ever. But I do have to put my presence in the room here and kind of expound about why and what is going on to fix this bulkhead. It has been over a year now. May 22nd last year, the bulkhead failed. And that was prior to 2 previous washouts of the bulkhead before it completely failed. And it took almost 6 months to get from that point to where they came out and did some kind of phase 1 deal, which is still there, and it's an absolute catastrophe. If you've ever seen a bomb drop area, or if you've ever seen a gopher hole place, I have personally dug 2 dogs out of the holes already. They go back in there and they fall in there, and we got all kind of problems, and every time it rains, folks, that bulkhead is going to fail. I'm an engineer by trade. And we just had a couple good rains here in the last couple of days, and if you saw Niagara Falls, that's what's going on at that bulkhead. It's washing out every single time worse. Now, I understand there's processes and procedures, but my beef right now is it doesn't take a year to get something like this fixed. It just doesn't. And I don't know what the plan is here, but there's a lot of things, and I've talked to Maybeth a lot, and bless her heart. She has tried. And she has tried. And she's probably more frustrated than I am because she wants to get it fixed as well. But I'm going to ask this board to do something here tonight to get this thing started, finished, and done with, because it needs to be fixed. And if it doesn't get fixed, what's going to happen is this thing's going to fail, and you're going to end up with the road into the canal. And you'll have all that neighborhood that can't get back there. That's how close we are right now. That thing has moved since the very beginning of phase 1. and it's gonna give. And I don't know if my 3 minutes is up or not, but I kind of think you can get my gist.
Sure.
And so I'll shut up and I'll listen and we'll see where we're at. But, you know, there's a whole lot of work that needs to get done. It needs to get done soon. We need to get to a resolution. Let's get the damn thing fixed.
Thanks, Steve. Heather Cooley.
Well, brought y'all something. So I feel like it's deja vu again because we're talking about the same thing that we talked about last month. It's actually the same thing we've been talking about for probably, what, last 7 years? That's what I can read online in board meeting minutes, and I'm quite sure it's gone on much longer than that. Last month, actually since February, I've been bringing to the board's attention, Maybeth, your attention, with photos, the dumping that is occurring up the street with the house under construction at Forstay and Lighthouse, right? And last month we learned that since February and the complaints with the photos, that there's been nothing done in terms of following, we've not been following our own procedures and writing up the builder for violations, right? The same things that the homeowners get written up about. Builder has been getting a pass on everything. And we were assured that following that meeting, we were going to sit down with that builder and take care of it. Well, that didn't happen. Or it's just not hitting and coming clear to these guys. Because, well, there you go. Y'all can take a look. Brent, I know you've seen some of this, Leslie, and you've seen it, made that, but for anybody else who hasn't, there's a few copies. And I'll even have some for y'all. Everybody can just take a look and see. Now, what I'm really mad about this time, right, is I send an email, and it's like, here we are again. One morning, this was last week. If y'all are going to be meeting with the builder, right here. That's one morning's worth of trash on only part of the street. And most of this was in my yard, right? Be careful when you give that back to them. There's nails in there. It probably stinks a little bit because there's a bunch of taco wrappers and everything else that's in there. Let's talk about the sand, all of that that's in there. The gutters, and we're talking concrete materials. They're still there, right? We're sure that it was going to get cleaned up. Let's fast forward, y'all can read those quick emails in there. How is it that if there's gutters that are filled with sand, and it's a violation, it's something that's written up in our CCRs, our newly established summary of standards, we have a fine policy for it. How is it that somebody in a repeat violation issue, now, according to Maybeth, if that's the only thing wrong with the site, that's not a violation? I mean, I'm sitting here, it's in the email. I got told via email from y'all that if the gutters are filled, it's really not a violation. I don't know, I can read every single one of my documents here from the board, including my covenants, which y'all, here's the deal with the covenants. It's a contract, right? Your contracts are your covenants are a contract. I signed, POA signed, and there it is, curbs, gutters.
You have about 30 seconds.
That's fine. So, contract, just like if you sign for a mortgage or if you have an employment agreement, anything, it's an agreement, it's a contract. We bought out here to protect our property. We thought the POA was going to do that for us. And as far as I'm concerned, this POA, by letting the builders go, are in breach of that contract. Start enforcing.
Thank you, Heather. Ron Jeffers.
I yield my time to the lovely Michelle Jeffers.
Michelle Jeffers.
I don't need 6 minutes. I'll be really quick. There was a question that came up on Nextdoor today about the decals and the stickers for parking in the boat ramps. What is the money used for those decal fees?
Yeah, sure.
It just goes into the general fund.
Just goes into the general fund? Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, thanks. Michelle, is that it?
Yes, thank you.
John Minners? Thanks. Tom? Alfred? Can't read the last name.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was just a sign.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Marcia?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. And Sam?
No, he just signed in.
Okay. Anyone else want to talk in public comment? Okay, thank you. Maybeth, I'm going to pass these on to you if you would include those in the minutes. All right, we'll move to presentations. Receive a presentation from Marvin Jones regarding costs, archiving procedures, etc. for videoing of board members or board meetings. Sorry.
Pass that around, please. Take one. What you're receiving.
Marvin, you may want to grab
Oh, sorry.
the mic.
This won't take long. What the board is receiving is a cost estimate for recording and streaming POA board meetings. If you look on page 2 there, you'll see rather a long list. I don't think we need to go into detail over it. It's a little complicated. But in general, if the POA wants to start recording, storing, and saving board meetings on video, it's going to cost someplace between $1,200 and $2,000, depending on the amount of equipment and the type of equipment bought. Also, there's a storage fee. At the very bottom, you'll see there's a gentleman by the name of Michael Wyatt Productions. He made an offer that if we would do a 6-month contract, he'd do all this for $300 per meeting. But he does not live stream, apparently.
Sorry, Marvin. That's not for you.
That's my broker. So this is just meant to be an estimate. It's not meant to be carved in stone, depending on the equipment and other variables. There you go.
So Marvin, on the $1,200 to $2,000, that's the capital cost for the equipment.
Yes, that's correct.
And
It does not include labor cost. Obviously, we have to find somebody knowledgeable to run the equipment, upload it, process it, all that kind of thing, if we do it in-house.
So that's the $300 per meeting with a 6-month contract for the labor?
No, he does everything for the $300 per meeting. He brings his own equipment, where he does all the processing.
Gotcha.
That's a turnkey kind of thing versus us buying and doing it ourselves. And he said he negotiates.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions, discussion from the board?
What's that new toy?
Oh, that is a 360 camera. The public comments we are doing in 360 just so people can get a better feel for the room. So
That's neat.
And I have to back up just a step before I should have answered my own question, because, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I saw a posting on Nextdoor, and I talked to Jim about this, about you guys' crew that has gathered some interest and started cleaning up spots that received compliance letters. So could you take 3 minutes, your public comment, and talk about what you guys are doing, the successes or the challenges that you had, and maybe any suggestions?
Sure. I mean, it's not our crew, obviously. Basically, we took an idea that we saw on Nextdoor that people were doing kind of onesies and twosies to help maybe their neighbor. And I just thought it might be a good thing to put a coordination together with that group. So, we've got now a single email address and a catchy title. And now people can come to us if they want to volunteer. They can also come to us if they know they have issues, and they can contact, and we can see what works there. The general goal was to help homeowners who are facing some compliance issues and who are also facing other hardships. But it expands a little bit. The last one we were at, we found out the gentleman was a veteran who was having some health issues, and Ron Jeffers is working with him to get him into to some VA services and things like that. So the conversations, it expands. It's been fairly straightforward so far. Somebody contacts me, I go look at their yard, I talk to them, I kind of reconnoiter the place. And then I send an email out, to the group. Everything's all blind copied, so nobody knows who nobody is. Nobody knows who the homeowner is until pretty much the day before. We don't publicize who it is, or I guess give very general situations, and have had very good response from the community, to just come and help and spend a morning in some really hot weather, and I appreciate that from people.
How many did you have at the last?
How many people showed up to help? 14. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's neat. Good job.
Pardon?
How many people?
And board member Marvin showed up, yes.
Marvin showed up.
Yeah.
How many people do you have on your volunteers?
Between the list I have and another group that I'm also coordinating with, it's about 180 people. All pretty much local. So.
Right.
In the past month, how many yards have you?
We've done 2 yards, and I've probably spoken with 2 or 3 other people where it really didn't need, but I assisted them with maybe giving them some additional information or just some other guidance types of things. Not everything falls to the level of having to show up to pull weeds. Sometimes they just need some guidance and help. So I'm meeting with a woman tomorrow that I think it's a very, very small situation. And then I'll if something comes from that, I'll send an email out to the group that if we need to take it to the next step, then we'll do that as well.
If somebody has a yard and they call you and they need some help, and then they say, hey, let me give you X amount of dollars, for whatever.
Yeah.
You just don't take anything like that, even for sodas or water or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
just a question.
Nope.
Okay.
So
because
wouldn't even know how to do that. So
Okay, well, there's probably a way, but
yeah.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Kelly, you have.
That's your 3 minutes.
Yeah. So, on that same line of questioning, big or ballpark estimate of cost. What do you guys, volunteers, what do they put in for drinks and
Jim
materials?
Jim buys some donuts. We buy a case of water.
I don't like donuts at all. If I could use some of her time.
Yeah.
We've done 2 projects. We show up with a case of water and a bag of ice and a dozen donuts. The first meeting, nobody would eat the donuts. The last meeting, I didn't have enough donuts. $20.
People have brought.
We went to the dump twice to take the last property
That's free.
stuff off.
Yeah.
It's just we're paying forward in the community.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing.
It's a good thing.
All right. Sorry for skipping over you.
It's okay.
To recognize it.
Can I, if you indulge me 1 second, you and I talked earlier today about this. One thing that's come up is it would be helpful if the POA had a list of contractors, not saying that you would recommend the contractors, but one homeowner said, well, both that we've done work with said, can you just give us a list of people who would help us out? Somebody who can work for a couple of hours. I mean, I've worked on my own properties and I can't get kids to help. They walk by and look at you with a dumb look on their face, right? So
I actually perused next door because people ask all the time, and I went through all of the next door listings where people actually recommended somebody, and I said, okay, if people were willing to recommend, so I've got a list of 7 or 8 local companies that neighbors have recommended, and that's generally what I give them. So
We have such a list in the POA office, and if residents contact us, we give it out all the time. You get on the list, a contractor gets on the list if they've been recommended by a resident.
Okay.
It takes 1 resident to get them on the list. It takes 2 complaints to get them off, and we have removed them.
Okay.
But we have it, and we
Okay.
always tell everybody, we're not recommending, but these have been recommended by your neighbors, and so we do have that.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Kelly.
Thanks.
We're going to move on to presentation from William Goldstein, And this is for the Madre Island Property Owners Association Hurricane Recovery and Debris Cleanup.
Well, Tom Rodino's here with us, and I'll let Tom sort of give you a summary of his work. I think you have a copy of his report.
Well, I think some of them have copies, and I brought some copies for the board members who don't, unless you already handed them out. What we've done so far, basically phase one of the project. You'll probably proposed doing this in 3 phases. And the initial phase was to actually describe the project, find out what you're trying to do, and what it looks like and what you need to do going forward. The underlying premise being that the Property Owners Association wants to be prepared for the next hurricane and look at the risks primarily to your I'm going to use the term public infrastructure to distinguish that from individual homeowners' properties. So you're going to be looking at things like the streets, the bulkheads, for example, boat ramps, other facilities that are owned by the Property Owners Association. And one of the key elements there is to look at what not only what the risks are, what you can do to minimize that, but what you're going to have to do to deal with the aftermath of major hurricanes. And so homeowners associations are not eligible entities under FEMA criteria for post-disaster assistance. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't be eligible for anything, because there are things like small business association loans that are in addition to the FEMA grant program. But FEMA grant program only applies to what they call public property. The homeowners association is not a public entity. Your Padre Isles Management District is a public entity and would be eligible for FEMA assistance after a declared disaster. There are a lot of, when I talk about eligibility, there are a lot of conditions that go into that. You have to have an event that received a presidential disaster declaration, and that requires a certain amount of damage to have occurred throughout Nueces County and the state of Texas. So there are thresholds that FEMA sets every year for how much damage before it can be eligible for a presidential disaster declaration. Those numbers are relatively small, it's like $26 million. But that's something that has to be satisfied. But so when we look at this right now, we look at it and say, okay, the homeowners association is not eligible for federal assistance for what you own, which is the bulkheads, your office building, the boat ramps, parks, things like that. The management district would be. The only problem there is that the management district doesn't actually own anything. So we're here looking at a program and say, okay, you're not eligible for that federal assistance as things stand right now. I know that you have the management district has the authority to take ownership of the bulkheads and may opt to do that at some point. So what I've recommended in looking at this program going forward is that we use the FEMA criteria for everything. If you have damage here, like somebody talked about the bulkheads just a little while ago. If you have storm damage to the bulkheads, the expectation is that you're going to restore it. Whether you're self-insured or you have commercial insurance or you actually have some eligibility for federal assistance later on, you're really going to take the same steps to get there. You're going to look at the condition before the event. You're going to look at the condition afterward. If the difference between the two is the damage that occurred, you're going to look at how you're going to go about restoring that damage and dealing with it. So the FEMA criteria out there are really very heavy on documentation. And that's really the key to pretty much everything. Document the pre-event condition, document the after-event condition. And you're already doing that documentation with your bulkhead inspection program that's underway right now. So essentially you're establishing a baseline for the bulkheads. the additional elements of that would be continue a maintenance and periodic inspection program, and repair any damage that occurs, repair that as soon as practicable. Because when you look at what the restoration criteria are, whether it's from your insurance company or from FEMA later on, if eligibility is established, they don't put things back necessarily the way you want them. What the rules call for is put it back to the pre-storm, the pre-event condition, and that's all that ends up being eligible. So if you have a known problem and that problem exists at the time of the event, then it's not going to be eligible no matter what you do later on. So what I've been looking at is the history out here, and one of the challenges we have with that is there's a lot of history, but most of you weren't here for it. This development started in 1965. The last major hurricane was Hurricane Celia in 1970. There wasn't much here. There is some documentation on the storm tide elevations from that event, but it's really hard to correlate those to anything. So we'll be looking at, instead of what the forecast potential conditions are for the hurricane, and that's something that's in this initial report. We did the basic research on that. You'll see, any of you were at the presentation that John Metz of the National Weather Service made, along with Billy Delgado from the City Emergency Management Coordinator here a week or so ago. What's in that report is the same information that John Metz, National Weather Service, referred to. And what that shows is the probable storm surge elevations out here for each category hurricane. And what they showed is that surge, using a model that National Weather Service NOAA calls slosh, to look at the elevations above land, not above sea level, but above land. And they range from 3 feet to more than 9 feet for various categories of storms out here. So when you're looking at a Category 3 hurricane, which is right in the middle, and that's what Celia was, you're looking at potential for 9 feet of water over the bulkheads above grade. And one of the things we'll look at there is what the potential impacts from that would be, and what types of debris would be generated from it. So we haven't gone into all of that. I haven't gone into all of that yet. That'll be part of the phase 2 project if you go forward with this. But right now, what we're looking at is you have the potential for significant amount of flooding out here. How much impact that would have is something we're looking at in the risk assessment.
Here comes the speaking out.
So everybody with their storm alert.
Deleted Martin TX Amber Alert, LIC HVF 2149 TX 2008 Brown Honda Civic.
That would have been too much if it was a flood environment. Come on. I would always go home.
You are pretty much over that. You know, a key element here for this program is looking how it merges with what the city of Corpus Christi has in place. The city has pre-position contracts, people are committed to system damage assessment, debris management, hazardous material disposal, all the cleanup activities. And they contract for that on a continuous basis. One, May Beth communicated with the city early last year, got a response back that said that the management district could participate in that program with the city, but they'd be looking at a funding mechanism for that. Right now, what we look at with the city is they have responsibility for the streets out here, and you would expect that their debris contractor would clear streets and would haul away debris that is brought out to the curbside by residents. And right now with the city program, that's all that would be covered. Looking at how you would deal with the canal issues is the biggest challenge going forward. And it's more complicated than I thought at the beginning, because the Property Owners Association owns some of the submerged lands. Individual homeowners in some cases own some of the submerged lands. In some cases, not both sides of the canal belong to the Property Owners Association. And then the Property Owners Association is actually broken up into several different segments. So looking at how we would be able to manage a debris program of that and a cost sharing program if it came to that with the city is going to be somewhat challenging. But what I have to think is that it's bound to have been done elsewhere. It hasn't been done in Corpus Christi, but there are a lot of communities along the Gulf Coast, I think, where we probably look for some guidance on how some of those issues have been handled. It would be looking at the biggest challenge being removing the debris from the canals. And the second part of that is, what do you do with it once you get it out? It's got to go somewhere. The city program has a contractor come in. Not only do they collect the debris, they're responsible for finding places to take it, to store it, to reduce the volume, recycle, grind, mulch, burn, dispose of it in some fashion, and basically put everything back pretty much in the same state of cleanliness it was at the beginning. So we'll be looking, we go forward here, looking at how to merge the needs out here with city program. And one of the things that we've already talked about is the management district can take ownership of the bulkheads, can also take ownership responsibility for the canals themselves. And in doing so, we'll look at if that were to happen somewhere down the road, would that be eligible for some federal assistance in dealing with public debris issues?
Tom, what is the next step, or does this report cover everything in phase one that you?
This is what we did in phase one, and it has really been the basic research on what's out here and recommendation for how to go forward. Phase two would actually be doing the risk assessment, working with the city of Corpus Christi to see how we can merge the needs from this area into that program. To look at what the options are for you going forward.
All right, so I'd ask the board to review this report and then also reflect back on the proposal that we had from Tom. I believe there were 3 phases, William. So we're through phase one, and we need to get questions back, and I would ask that we filter those back to William, and then William coordinate with Tom. I guess, Maybeth, you're participating in that, obviously, but we need to get this reviewed pretty quickly, and I would think that we don't want to sit on phase 2 and phase 3 for an extended period of time. We're going to continue the momentum or go a different direction if that's what the board wants to do. So,
one of the things, in Tom's report on item 4, he says eligibility for post-disaster assistance for federal, state, and local agencies is not a driving force for the property owner program. I think that's something the board ought to consider. I mean, we all
where are you referencing?
Item number 4.
What page have you got?
Page 3,
Page 4 of 8.
We have different page numbers. So it's item 4, the first paragraph. Eligibility for post-disaster assistance.
And I'll tell you, the reason I said that, as I mentioned earlier, right now, the Property Owners Association owns the infrastructure and is not eligible for anything. If the management district takes ownership of the bulkheads, for example, then we'd bring those under the eligibility criteria of FEMA. But my recommendation is that you do it the same way no matter what. Because when you started this,
the need was to find a way to prepare for dealing with the impacts of a major hurricane. And that's the only criteria you have out there, FEMA criteria. So I recommend that we use those going forward and develop your program as if you're eligible, because hopefully somewhere in the not too distant future you will be.
I think parallel with that, you all should have dialogue with John and Bill and be talking about that, because if you want to go in that direction, you need to be prepared for the next legislature to amend the management plan.
Tom, do you believe the areas where the homeowners own out and the ones that don't and all that stuff, do you think we can get past that?
I think so. The way I've read the rules there, if the management district, and as William just mentioned, you have to change the legislation. But if the management district were to be responsible for maintaining the canals, which as the Property Owners Association does right now, then maintenance is maintenance. Yes.
So ownership
as they would be.
Ownership won't cancel contracts.
Not if the management district is taking responsibility for maintaining them, for removing debris, for managing the dredging. And that's another thing you have. You've done dredging surveys out here. That's another area where the documentation would be key, because if the canals were then eligible, siltation of those that's currently storm related also would be eligible. Now, when I say eligible, that's to get some of the costs reimbursed.
Yeah.
Okay. But typically it's 75%.
Currently, the MMD doesn't have any money. It does have the right to assess. So if we're going to own and maintain, cost is going to come in there. And so that's an issue that has to be addressed.
Process for assessing those is involved. I mean, it's not something that the MMD board can do. It has to come from the owners within that district. So it's not an easy task.
So the responsible thing to do is establish where you are today, pre-storm, which is why we're going here. Because if you don't, then the federal government just says, oh well. And so there are some questions about the canals, the waterways. We have one legal opinion that says it's covered, and we have another one that says it's not. So that's what we're digging into right now. This kind of dovetails into maintaining your decks and making sure your nails are good and stuff. I have seen some floating lately of good chunks lately.
Carl gets them out all the time.
And so, what's going to happen with this debris, that the wooden stuff and the boats and stuff like that, they're going to go down into this mud. And we're not really sure what's in this mud. Some areas there's not good stuff in this mud. So when they pull this debris out, it's not like going to go to a dump. It's going to have to go somewhere else. And so this is a difficult and super involved subject, and we believe we're doing the responsible thing by doing this study and finding out what the risks are and establishing our places so that we're eligible for the FEMA and stuff like that. And we're not far from getting there to these answers.
And I'll dovetail into what Carter's saying. Each and every resident is responsible for the area around their home. So if there's a storm coming, whether it be a minor tropical or whatever, you need to get the stuff off your decks. I hate to bring palm fronds, but that's an issue, junk, etc. because all of that is going to add to our problem. And I don't know if anybody caught the 60 Minutes a couple weeks back, but they were dealing with fires in California, and they were saying that houses are being destroyed because of the junk that is flammable around their homes. And that's causing the houses to catch fire. If the junk was within 100 yards of the home, that home didn't burn. Whereas a home next door that had a lot of trash around it, that caught fire more easily from the embers. It's a similar situation. We create a problem and exacerbate it by not keeping our yards junk free,
So
especially in the hurricane season.
So that's the next part of this is the risk assessment in the program.
Look at that, and one of the elements you have in there is also to help update the information that you have for residents. You've got some information on your website already. Some of that, there's some other information that can go there that will be helpful for them. And simply remember that, you know, after a major hurricane, the expectation is that if we had a category 1 or 2 hurricane, that there would not be an evacuation order. If category 3 or above, the possibility exists. Certainly with a category 4 or 5. And what that does is it tells people that they have to leave. Well, these days, under current law, people can be forced to leave. The other side of that is that once an emergency evacuation order is issued, a lot of emergency services are no longer available because they're being diverted to deal with the evacuation. And then after the event, people will not be allowed to return until the city ascertains that it's safe for them to do that. And they're going to be looking at accessibility. They're also going to be looking at what's available out here in the way of scope of damage, utility services, water, sewer, electric, and they'll make a decision on when people will be allowed to come back in. So one of the things they're going to look at is you have to do damage assessment, you have to do debris management. How are you going to do that with people not being able to come back and deal with their own property? And a lot of that's going to be addressed through probably tying in with the city's contract program. Because the first tier of people allowed to come back in are going to be emergency responders and the people who are dealing with damage assessment and debris. So we'll look at modeling your program on the cities and then looking at how we can blend those two together as closely as possible.
All right, thank you, Tom. Any other questions?
Maybe have we ever studied the mud? Have we ever gone down there and gotten a sample?
Well, we do it when we dredge.
Yeah.
And we, yeah.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, when
Thank
we,
you, Tom. Thank you.
yeah, when we do it, when we dredge, we know what's coming out.
Well, there's a process. We're obviously digging the stuff up, and we're actually putting that on private property. So we may not want to poke that bear.
We don't want to go there.
Well, we're in a pretty low risk environment, and that the quantities of anything, we're not in an industrial area. I'm sure there are some areas that may have some potentially nasty stuff, but dilution is likely.
Oh,
Yeah, typically in a federal DMPA, addressed material placement area, you're required to take samples and test before you put it on federal property. In this case, it's private property, and it's pretty low risk, unless you're dumping diesel out there to Carter. All right.
No,
Okay.
Tom, would that be part of, do you think we ought to take a cup of that and take a whiff of it?
Well, no, what you would look at that as part of a dredging program. If you were going to go out there and do maintenance dredging now, the dredging contractor would look at the quality of the material and how it has to be disposed of. You do the same thing after a major
we could add that into a dredging program. And that might be, because again, I think it's low risk, and it might be good data to have to show that, hey, this wasn't contaminated before the storm. So we could do that. William, if you'll make a note of that for dredge plans, that'd be good. And then we're going to move on to the next presentation, which is you, William, on the Village Park design status. And I see handsome folks here, so I don't know who wants to give the report.
Thank you all for having me. It's Craig Thompson with Hanson. And this is Alan Byer. He's our landscape architect, urban planner, helping with us. We had 2 public meetings back in May. And I believe we kind of gave you a preliminary breakdown of what we had seen at those public meetings. But this is just a final report on all the comments, the public comment sheets we got back. If you remember, we didn't just solicit the public comments at those meetings, but we also put it on the website. And I think they were handing it out in a few other locations. And so we gave folks until the end of May to get us all their comments. We ended up with more than 60 respondents. Most all obviously live here in Padre Island. The frequency kind of varied quite a bit, but we did have almost half were either daily or weekly users. Most of those most of the comments back probably as not coming as a surprise to you guys. But what are the biggest concerns? I think I read sticker burrs probably on almost every single one of them as far as they're concerned, and the inadequate playground and unsafe playground was one of the big ones on more than half of them, and you've got a whole list there that we went through. What amenities do you enjoy? The walking path, the playground. Lots of folks still really do enjoy the playground. Farmers market, the basketball court had quite a few, and the baseball field. What additional amenities would you like to see there? The biggest one was a safe playground, new playground. I think in the public meetings, and we understand that there's a group of moms working towards purchasing a new playground, and we'll go through some of what we've identified in there. Restroom, shade structure, sports field. It goes down just a little bit. I gave you some of those. Some additional comments. Most of them were just you can't quite use the park. There were some that came in and said the maintenance cost is just too high, and that the upfront cost may be a little much. And so, anyways, those are in there, and felt like you guys needed to have that full report. And from that report, what our scope had us do was to create a master plan, kind of a wish list, if you will, taking into account all of these public comments and what we've heard and talking to folks. This is just kind of a bubble diagram of what we have for a conceptual plan for the entire park. You'll see we're not changing really what we feel kind of the heart of it, which is the baseball field, the existing memorial park, an all-purpose field of some semblance over here. We felt like something easy that could possibly be done in the future is to expand maybe another basketball court right there near the existing basketball court. We did hear about some restrooms and maybe a community room, some area for that back towards the existing facilities. Maybe even looking at expanding some of the parking capacity, because there really isn't a lot of off-street parking capacity right now. One of the things we thought about as we were going through it is, how could we utilize this existing playground area, which we feel is just way too big for a playground, really. And we thought, well, what if we could maybe fit a couple sand volleyball courts in there? You could utilize that edging as it exists right now, put some more sand in through there. The volleyball courts fit in there nicely with a nice, almost 20-foot buffer around the outside of it all as it exists right now. That's about 100 foot by 100 foot. And we could fit a couple sand volleyball courts in there, which would be a nice reuse, relatively low maintenance in through there, and relatively inexpensive cost. Keeping the shade structure where it is, I know there's some thought bringing that down, but you have that concrete slab there, which sure would be nice. Maybe if you could look at a shade structure on there. And then even an area for a community garden back over here. We did leave in the master plan we heard some issues about long-term maintenance costs, obviously, being one of those things. And we had kind of thought about this area back over and through here, kind of keeping this natural right now. And then some other areas with some shade trees. This just was our look at a conceptual plan, master plan for the area, for the park. When we started looking at the costs of it, we kind of came down to what we're calling a phase 1 conceptual plan. We feel like, and I'm going to show an exhibit here in a little bit about, hearing from everybody, the number one issue is the sticker burrs. And so we've got to try and help solve that problem. That's our number one goal with this project. And really it's going to take, you have to take talking with folks, talking with Alan, landscape architects, talking with landscapers, talking with biologists and other folks out here on the island. Mary Ellen Vegas, someone we've looked with that we've talked to. She used to work for Texas Parks and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. To get rid of those sticker burrs, we really just have to come in and you just have to take them out. And what we're looking at as part of this phase 1 is completely removing this vegetation. With that, you definitely need to have a source of irrigation, source of water for this. We are looking at irrigating pretty much this entire park with phase 1, short of this area here. Now, when we design the irrigation, it'll be designed with zones, and it'll be designed such that in the future, if you wanted another baseball park or something like that in this area, you could extend irrigation back over into here. But in our first phase 1, we wouldn't do that. We would look at some additive alternates because, and I'll get to here in a little bit, some of the costs just to strip this and to put that seed on there and to get that irrigation in there is going to eat up a significant amount of what the allowed budget is right now. And so some of the other items that we'll have with the plan that goes out for bids, but we'll have it as additive alternates are what I mentioned, converting the sand volleyball, or converting the existing playground into a sand volleyball. A playground, basically calling it a preparation for the playground structure to be brought in. That means an edging on it, perhaps a fence, excavating, bringing in the mulch and the fill in there and a type of mulch, whether it's a plastic mulch or the fibrous type stuff, that we'll be looking at that during the design process. And then also additive alternate bids for bringing in sod into the baseball field and perhaps even sod in the all-purpose field. And so that really is kind of our phase 1 that we're looking at. A couple other things we did have in here that we will show. The disc golf baskets are in pretty bad shape, and we had heard from a few folks, and we thought, that's a pretty easy thing that we could include as an additive alternate to remove and replace those. We've actually even been in contact with the Disc Golf Association. Didn't know there was anything, but supposedly there is, or evidently there is. Alan's talked with them. They'd even be willing to come in and maybe do some of that work if maybe the disc golf nets were purchased. And so we'll be looking into that. I think William's already had some conversations with your attorney about having outside agencies as part of the PIPOA come in and assist with some of those things, and maybe some of the playground type stuff. We'll be looking into that as we move forward. Some of the other items that we've looked at some costs on are some additional, these asterisks here are just some areas where we felt like maybe some additional access points would be. That's pretty simply just bringing in another sidewalk into the area at those locations. And then also we looked at pricing out another pad for another porta potty, probably to be placed somewhere other than there, but we had heard some additional restroom needed. So that was pretty much what we put some cost estimates together for phase 1. I do have those cost estimates if y'all want to talk about those or look at those. Yes.
I think we'd like to do that in executive session.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do have those. That's pretty much my presentation. I will take any questions.
The reason is we don't want to put the cost out there and then have contractors that are going to bid on this have an unfair advantage over others. So,
Yeah, I agree.
Do we have,
sorry, go ahead.
have you done any cost projections on maintenance on a yearly basis?
Yeah, we have looked at that. We feel like the cost maintenance on a yearly basis, I mean, of course, depending on what exactly is done out here, but we do feel like it's probably in the $15,000 to $20,000 range on a yearly basis for maintenance of it.
So the city's gonna be paying, right?
It's almost, the city's almost 50, it's like 14.
They'll be paying us, right?
14,700.
It's 14.7.
Craig,
Close to a $14,000.
But what are we getting for a 14.7?
That's what they're paying.
Cash.
They're giving
a
us the cash.
maintained park.
My point was, is the park being maintained by the city for 14 plus change now?
That is their budget.
Yes.
What is it?
That's their budget.
Are they spending that is your question?
Yeah, what if
Well,
you
for
do?
14.7, we got nothing but sticker burrs. So how much is it gonna take us to keep the sticker burrs out and maintain everything else? Is it an extra 5? Is it an extra 10?
Right.
So on.
So I'll back up to a couple other things. And Brent, I did want to mention one other thing that I left off of the conceptual plan that we will also put into a bid as an additive alternate. We did look at some areas around the edging to bring in maybe like a white rock or a type of ground cover to help reduce a little bit of the maintenance on some of those areas out there. I did forget to mention that. One of the things that we're going to do before we strip this off, and there is a pre-emergent herbicide that you can spray that's meant for the sticker burrs. And so we certainly will do that before we strip and before we go ahead and put the seed out there. But it's one of the things that we had looked at whenever we were talking about maintenance costs, maybe once a year come out there and spray that to try and keep those sticker burrs. Now, of course, if you don't water, the sticker burrs are going to come right, I mean, they'll come right back. Now, the watering of the seed and what we will hope to accomplish with this is to really get that vigorous growth of the grass to help choke it out as much as possible. Guys, this is the island. The sticker burrs, I mean, you know, you walk through an empty lot, you got sticker burrs on you. I mean, you will carry sticker burrs, and that's the seed that will drop right there. And no matter how much water we get out here, there will be some of that. But if you do some maintenance, yearly maintenance on it, the pre-emergent again, then we can hopefully kill as much sticker burrs as possible. And you keep that routine going, and you keep that watering going.
And proper mowing.
And proper mowing, exactly. So.
Still mowing though, that's from our yard.
Craig,
Yeah.
what is the status of your contract
Right.
versus our design schedule, or our contract versus the design schedule? Do we have an estimate on where we're at? Are we on schedule, behind?
We're on schedule. What we had put was for this meeting tonight to bring this to you guys and to get a thumbs up to move forward with. Next phase is schematic phase, which is about what we're calling a 30% schematic drawing so that we can get that to the city, let them start taking a look at it. Of course, the city has approval with these construction plans. We hope with that 30% we can get that in front of the parks director and his staff, let him start taking a look at it, shoot some holes in what issues we may have with it before we get all the way to the 90%. Our goal, my goal, and this is, as you all may know, dependent upon what the city's going to come back with comments on, but my goal, I believe, in our contract was to come to the August meeting with a set of construction documents, stamped draft, but at that time for you guys to be able to give us a thumbs up to start advertising for bids and go out for bids. So.
Has there been communication with the city so we don't have any surprises that we back up and have to do anything over?
Well, not in that context. Jay was challenged by a city council person as to what's going to be in the project, and we provided that information to Jay. And I told Jay that after this meeting tonight, I'd be in a position to sit down and talk to him. Because all we've got is just a concept.
Yeah.
Until you guys say go forward.
Is there a water cost
Is there any discussion?
availability? Is that part of your program?
Is it?
I'm sorry.
Water is worth more than money today, for tomorrow.
Right.
have you evaluated where you're gonna get the water, or what's your cost? How much, and who's gonna supply it?
So my understanding, and y'all may jump in here, y'all may be a little bit more up on the contract with the city, but my understanding is that the irrigation water will be provided to this group by the city.
Quantity?
Yeah, so let's don't go down the rabbit trail here on specifics on the design. You guys probably haven't sized
No.
sprinkler heads and water and
right. Yep.
So
I mean, that certainly is our next phase.
Yeah. So, is there any more questions from the board with respect to Hanson, where they're at, what direction they're headed? I'd like to give you guys the approval to move forward, knowing the constraints that we laid out at the beginning of the project, which is the cost, the schedule, the budget, and the bare amenities that we laid out in front of you guys. So, any other discussion on the board?
Do you feel comfortable that we're going to get a ways down the road with the current budget we're working with?
Yes.
Okay.
Within the base bid, yes, and I certainly feel there will be some additive alternates available as well, and that will just be up to you guys as to which additive alternates get the thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we'll set it up within the bid proposals. We'll have a base bid with many additive alternates so that the options are there.
So with the additive alternates, would that include things such as the number 30 item here was the lack of shade and the amenities for that and stuff. So I'm assuming, we've got everything else, but the lack of shade I know is a big issue with a lot of people and stuff. So is there something addressed at all?
Right now we don't. It doesn't mean if we get direction from this board that's something that we certainly can look at.
I mean, I have to question if there's something we can forego to be able to provide more shade, since that was the number 3 item here.
I'm not sure you would want to forego anything. If it's something you feel like needs to be part of an additive alternate, it's something we definitely can look at. I wouldn't forego anything, because just keep your options open. And if a shade structure, where we want it comes in at $200,000, you may decide, nope, it's just not worth it. Or, and we can also take a look at trees and things like that, some strategic placing of some trees. And so those are some of the things, like given y'all's guidance, we certainly can start to plug into the plan.
I would like to add that the moms are now over $40,000 on the amount that they raised. They just, in this last push they've just done, they've raised $6,000. So they're still working.
That's for the playground, right?
For the playground.
Playground equipment.
Yeah.
No, and obviously they are designing this based on the wishes of these studies. So while shade is certainly in there, they're focusing on
The first 2
So, yeah.
The playground equipment itself, you talked about we don't need that much playground. So I just want to make sure we're not creating grief for the group that is raising the funds, for the funds that they're raising, for the equipment that they're wanting to purchase to place on that. Is that playground area sufficient?
It will be. That may not be right there, that purple, but we certainly will work with them as we're developing the limits of what we're going to end up doing for the, quote unquote foundation for the playground.
Yeah, I would just encourage you guys to keep in communication with them. I think I see a playground out there tonight. So make sure that you guys, it's a good observation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is not there a footprint for your project?
Yeah, there is. I need to get it.
Okay, good.
And there are 2 big shade umbrellas that cover the playground structure that we have designed.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Brandon, in this conceptual phase, it was a little premature to meet with the user groups. Sure. And we'll do that in the next phase.
Yep, okay.
But we certainly heard from the moms at the public meetings. Yep. And happy they were there. Really were.
They worked hard.
Yeah.
That's an amazing operation.
Yeah. Do we have a budget projection that itemizes how much we're going to spend for irrigation system, how much for scraping, how much for grass seed or sod? a breakdown of each component?
I do. I have an estimate here for those.
that's
Now,
right, sure.
I'm not a contractor, but we certainly have used past bids and things like that to give y'all an estimate. And again, you know, I mean, I'll leave these, if y'all want to talk about them, I'll be available during, you know, we'll be here when y'all want to talk about it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Hey, y'all,
I haven't
what's in
seen
the
that.
industrial area? Is that not?
So, sorry, hold on. Hold on.
I got it.
One at a time, please. So Marvin, we're again, we don't want to have the numbers floating around. There's actually 5 or 6 contractors that are interested in pursuing this project. So typically that information is held pretty close to the vest until they go out, or after they go out for bids. So.
That's the document.
Okay, thank you. And we are going to move on to receive a presentation from Hanson Engineering regarding the status of the bulkhead inspection project.
Can we, hey Brian, can we ask one, this is a really important question, because we're paying for 100% of the park, with the natural area, we're only getting charged.
Heather.
No, what is the natural area?
It's the area shown on his plans, but we're going to conduct this. We're going to conduct this board meeting, and we're not going to float inaccurate information, which is exactly what you just said. So,
Can these guys answer the question?
so if you can talk with any board member and submit questions, and then we'll follow up on that. But it's not an open session to bring up information that's not accurate. And what you just said was not accurate.
Well,
what is accurate? So.
What is accurate? What is
Okay, so we're going to move on to the status of the bulkhead inspection. And please don't just interrupt the meeting. You're actually out of order. So.
Brent, nobody here.
I'm sorry, I did not know that was on the agenda, and especially in light of the comment before, I'll give word to our clerks to make sure that they.
Yeah, if you could shoot NABEF just a written status report on where we're at, and again, taking into account schedule and budget, want to make sure that the board is aware of what's going on, where you're at, and that we're making progress like we've talked to our owners out here.
I'll get the word.
Thank you. And then, William, I think you were going to cover, you guys have a lot of stuff on the agenda. And Craig, thanks for what you guys are doing. Appreciate the progress.
If I could ask a question, Brent, I noticed on the next, is there more to do on Village? Did you need me to stick around?
No, I think you're good. But we are going to talk about the Primavera bulkhead, and William will get back with you guys and if there's any outstanding issues.
Thank you, guys.
Again, thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Well, our engineer is up in Austin, and our San
William, you may want to get this mic so everybody can hear you.
Okay. Our engineer's not here tonight, but I have a copy of his plans, and I thought I would just very simply sort of show you the work that he's done in his plans. Maybe the simple thing to do is just pass these around. You've got a cover sheet, and then you've got a sheet of specs, and then you've got a sheet that defines the actual work that will be done in plan view, and I'm going to go over that with you. Some edits here. There's a sheet that describes the concrete sheet piles, and then another sheet that's got some of the concrete sheet piles, and it's got some of the drainage information as to how the city drain will be incorporated, and a new outfall created, and then just some details. And then I've got multiple copies. This is a plan view of the work that's going to be done. I don't have a lot of 11, 17 stuff here. But fundamentally, you've got a concrete bulkhead that is rotated out towards the water. And so the question is, how do you tie that back? And if you look from from the water's edge where the bulkhead is to the road, there's some utilities. There's some utilities that are closer to the road. And so you can't go back and excavate under the road. You can't go back and reestablish the old dead end because you would corrupt the utilities over there. So what we're going to do is, and also you've got a couple of nice mesquite trees there that the local property owners were sensitive to try to preserve those mesquite trees. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a steel sheet pile bulkhead between the utilities and the new bulkhead. And that steel sheet pile bulkhead will serve as the tieback system for the new bulkhead. The new bulkhead will be installed behind the bulkhead that has rotated outward. The old bulkhead will be chipped down and hopefully most of that will be removed. And then everything will be tied together and we'll come back in and reestablish the grades and sod the area with grass. And it'll be done, hopefully the city will be responsible for connecting the outfall to our outfall, but our contractor will put in all of the outfall structure.
At the bulkhead.
Yeah, right.
So, William, there was a gentleman that spoke earlier about what the status is of the project, and from looking at these plans, or let me back up. The first set of plans that we had some, we reviewed those, they had some risks that, from a cost perspective and additional issues with utilities and stuff like that, that we felt like was too high of a risk for the POA. So we went back and they've redesigned this, and these look like 100% plans. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's a few little edits to them. I sent him some comments, and but the plans are, 98% complete.
So they're ready to go out for bid.
He has a set of specifications. I will review those specifications probably between now and Monday, and we'll see if everything there is good to go. He has a little bit of work that he wants to do on just cleaning up some of this. So I think next week we could have a bid document, and he and I will probably be talking and setting up a date for a pre-construction conference, establishing when the bid dates will be, and I need to bring that back to somebody here for your all's approval. And so
I think we do that. I prefer if we do it by email to get it moving down the road. It looks like a couple of weeks. It would take a couple of weeks to bid the thing, and then we would need to have a vote to award the contract to the successful bidder, and then they have 10 days to get on site and start work.
Right.
So we're a month away from.
Yeah, tight month.
Yes.
Moving dirt.
And
moving dirt.
That's right. Moving dirt.
There is a something that an observation that he made earlier, and actually I saw this when we were out there. We have open holes out there on that site, and that's concerning, especially if you're fishing 2 dogs out. Thank goodness it's not a kid.
It's supposed to be fenced, but it's not.
The fence
So-
needs to be torn down.
But that's, a dog can still get it.
Why don't we get somebody over there to fill the ditches? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
can do that.
We don't want somebody.
Make it safe.
As long as,
Yeah.
as long as we don't need to have them open anymore, we'll take care of it.
They're gonna open it all up anyway. So,
Yeah, but you need to continue the flagging around it.
yeah. I just think we need to secure that site, because if there are dogs falling in it, I mean, if somebody's walking over there,
Yeah,
it's not a
it
good
is.
situation. So,
Okay. I'll make sure.
thank you. All right, thank you, William.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
All right, we'll move on. Oh, sorry, Mark. Go ahead. No? All right. We'll move on to the consent agenda, secretary's report.
Just need to approve the May 23rd, 2017 meeting minutes.
I've got some changes.
Wow.
Sorry. Actually, one of them's actually been addressed already, but I would like it to be put into the minutes itself. Under the presentations, and it was actually Marvin's stuff, we had originally, and I think you're going to make the wording, so I'm just going to read this real quick, but originally Marvin did suggest that we have an archival of all the recorded meetings. I thought that was a good idea. But I expressed a concern that since we didn't own the Facebook and the streaming, that we haven't achieved our goal, and so he was going to look into a permanent solution. Permanent archival that the board can retain even if the copies of the recordings are on the flash drive, was what your suggestion. So I just wanted that to be placed into the minutes itself. So we were looking for that. On Mr. Gold's, the paragraph that begins with Mr. Goldstein on the second paragraph, on the second page, I just wanted it noted I still can't find Mr. Rodinio's resume, and so I don't know if anybody else got it, but we're still looking to get a copy of that resume. Okay, thanks. Somehow I went and looked. I know, I just went back and looked, I could not find it, so I wasn't sure if everybody else had it. On going down, there's compliance committee, and the next sentence it starts Carter moved. There is no need to review every home, and that's just a typo. It should be on a given street. And then at the bottom of the report, under the treasurer's report, I just wanted to note in the minutes that I had requested a detailed listing of all the legal fees recorded this year by category and if they were a result of correspondence received and by whom. And so I just wanted that recorded within the minutes. And then I can get with you on what we need.
Thank you. We'll make those changes.
Anybody else?
Yes, board's
Any other meeting minutes, additions, changes, corrections? That's fine. Guess we need a motion to make a motion.
I think we don't
know.
Just need to make the corrections and move on. Okay, we're gonna, if you guys can keep this brief, we're almost, a couple hours, an hour and a half into this, so just looking for quick reports on committees, and we'll start with the compliance committee.
All right, well, you have a report, so I'm not going to go through reading every part. I'll hit the highlights. One, we have a single email address, but I don't think it yet goes to all of our members.
Here's the question about that. What do you want that to, why, or what do you want to accomplish with it?
What we want is so that when any of the community wants to send in any comments, concerns, questions, anything to the compliance committee, we just want them to have to send it to one email address, compliance at whatever, and then every member of the committee is going to receive a copy of it, so we all get it, and then we'll discuss it as we go through.
Okay, but as the way that the system works, every member of the committee could respond to that person, and therein is the bit of the issue.
We set protocol from the committee's perspective.
Okay.
We already set the protocol.
It is set up as compliance at PIPOA.net.
Okay, we just didn't know if it was actually going out to the committee members or ready to the committee members. Okay, so we'll move through that with our compliance committee.
That was just a concern that if we had individual members responding,
then it can be chaotic.
It would be chaos.
Yeah, we'll set our internal on that.
So let me just interject here. So this was last month that you asked for this, and you're the chair of the committee. Well, that's what I call you, the chair. So you're the chair of the committee, and if there's protocols within that committee that that don't respond to all or whatever, you guys establish the rules. But if you can get that email or the request, we got 180 members responding to cleanup efforts. So I think we ought to beat them to the punch. If they can do it in a week, we should do it in 4 days. If it takes them 2 weeks, it takes us a week. It shouldn't be the other way around. They do it in a week and we take a month.
Right.
So that's my soapbox.
We're forming some subgroups right now just to kind of let folks know. We're kind of dividing up our groups a little bit to get some more things done. So one is a did you know, and that's things that we can get education and correspondence to the community. We have a review of the current letters that are going out. Maybeth is sending us the current letters and the revised full version because they worked on that. group of people that are currently working on our development of our initial point system that we want to recommend. We have a group that's going to, which is me and I need to get with Maybeth. We just want to define which ones are POA rules versus the city regulation rules. The committee has asked, though, for a straw poll of our individual board members regarding the proposal that was submitted at the last meeting. And what the committee is looking for is what was your primary objections to what was submitted, so that we have a better understanding when we readdress it. And so I'll ask for that in just a second. I'll just finish my part of the report. And then the last one was getting a map of the POA, because what we did discover when we went out running around was that certain people thought that certain things were included within the POA, and then we discovered they were excluded. And so we kind of wasted a little bit of time not realizing that it wasn't even in the POA, so we got better. So back to my straw poll. If I could just go around real quick, and I'll record it so that the committee members will know. And basically it's just, we understand that it may not have been as popular, and it was at the current time we suggested easing up on the palm trimming and limiting enforcement to the brown fronds should be no lower than 12 feet from the ground. And so what we want to know is what it was that people might have had angst about that, so that I can take that back and we can really work on that one a little bit further and stuff. So.
Can you give us some information of what the overall plan is, the big umbrella of all of this?
That's not what she's asking right now.
I know, but before I could decide on the 12-foot rule, it would be nice to understand what the points are for and how the scheme is put together. Is that too soon to say that?
It is. I can tell you just the basics here. I can read this little part that are in your notes. It says the general principle for establishing our point system is, does it increase, decrease, or have no effect on your property value within the community? We are currently ranking the 15 violations that are currently on the list by all the members, and some feedback that they've gotten, so that we can use that in developing a point system. We did talk about parking issues, although we've had a lot of feedback on that, positive and negative. It won't be included in the initial point system because it's not on the initial listing. It's just not something, but we want to reserve that for a later point in time to readdress it. And that's where readdressing the point system itself. What we want to do is come out with a current point system, so that when we go to a home, or when the inspectors go to the home, we want to suggest that perhaps this one doesn't make sense to send them a letter, or maybe the type of letter that they receive is based on how many points within of things of issue. And so we want to have them ranked. Certain things might make rank, for instance, if there's a safety issue. One of the things we found when we went out to one of the homes was there's a refrigerator sitting out in front of somebody's house. Definite safety issue. So that would probably receive a lot of points and probably be eligible by itself to be able to get a letter. Others, there might be one thing wrong there, or further. Immediate action, that was one of the things we talked about. So yeah, so what we want to do is create a system that says, let's talk about how many points there are in a particular house, and does it make sense to send to that home a letter, or a little note, or a severe letter, or immediate action, those types of things. So we want to try to come up with something within that. So that's kind of what we're trying to work towards, so that it's not, if you have a few needs that may or may not constitute a letter, depending upon what's on the point system. So that's what I want to recommend back to the board. So based on that, that's what I'm looking for.
So the compliance officers will be assigning points to individual houses, if I understand you correctly. And from that, you decide whether or not you give them a letter.
Is that correct? That's kind of the premise of what we would like to recommend. But the point system is going to be based on how much of each of the violations, which ones affect property value, up, down, or no effect. So we're trying to look at it from all of those perspectives. So my straw poll is, at the current time, we would suggest easing up on the palm trimming and limit enforcement to the brown ponds should be no lower than 12 feet from the ground. But my question is, where's the angst? Because I could tell last time there's definitely some angst regarding that. So the question is, from the board's perspective, so we know that we're going in the right direction, where's the angst?
The 12-foot rule, on a 60-foot palm tree or 40-foot palm tree.
Then it's not an issue.
what we had presented when I talked last time was that from our perspective, what we were looking at is saying, if we just started with the 12 foot, then that's the line of vision. And so if that's the basic.
Depends on how far away you are.
I understand, that's what I need to know, is what's everybody's angst with what we, so that we know we're going in the right direction.
I just think, Leslie, it's a bad measurement tool. And that the once a year brown prawns is a reasonable rule. And I think the public will accept it too. Problem solved.
I think the same thing. You know, I don't want to get into an argument with somebody if it's 11 feet 9 inches or 12 feet 3 inches, you know, or, you know, not being able to access the property. I think we have a reasonable rule that one time a year you trim your trees. And then maybe go on further. Seems to be concern about when is the best time to trim trees. So I'll go back to the original thought that I threw out there is maybe you have a window of time, 3 months, whatever that is, which is the prime time to trim trees. Do that on an annual basis, and in order to help the homeowners, that the POA could negotiate a large tree trimming contract, drive the price down, unit prices, and let people sign up for that. So that was my only deal, is trying to, you know, I don't think we want to get into more arguments about we're picking on somebody for 12 feet and it was actually 12 feet 4 inches or whatever. And that's pretty much it.
And then, you know, there's a time to trim palm trees too. That's prior to them putting out those little shoots. Because there's a concept. Well, if you trim them too early, they are. Mine are. Those little things get in my pool and change the chemical structure like you would not believe, and they blow from 4 houses down. I mean, so there's other issues about palm trees than just the fronds and stuff. And so there's a good time of year, and it happens to be June. You know, the beginning of June into May is when they're shooting those things out. I imagine something.
Yeah, and I just think that if there's a prime window, why don't we get a big contract that, you know, goes through this island and helps trim?
Great idea.
So anyway, we can go on all night. So why don't you guys jump in and we'll move through the agenda.
Well, I mean, I think I raised the most angst or whatever, and y'all pretty much covered it. Mainly your two topics were what I was saying. The 12 foot I just didn't agree with, and I think the annual, whenever it's determined the right proper time of the annual trimming is sufficient. I mean,
I concur.
Just 12 feet
it's
too arbitrary.
Yeah. And then the older neighborhoods where the trees are bigger,
they'll never have to trim.
They'll never have to trim.
Right.
So that's not fair either. So no, I'm pretty solid on that.
It's okay. That's what we want to hear. Martin?
12 feet is an arbitrary measurement. I don't know, I'll pass.
And I would definitely have to know the numbers before I moved it, agreed upon someone else doing everybody's trees.
No, we just have a preferred provider kind of thing. You know, I bet you we could get the number down to $25.
Just let me make it
Talking
clear.
about paying for those.
Yeah, let me make it clear, and I'm gonna. This is another agenda item that I'm gonna suggest the same thing with respect to security. What I'm suggesting is the POA has the ability to leverage our buying power. So if we went out to a contractor and said, hey, between these months, we would guarantee that you're going to trim whatever it is, 1,000 trees. Pick a number. And then we advertise that to the homeowners and say, we've driven the cost down because there's so many trees. There's going to be a contractor that says, wow, I can stay busy for a couple of months and have this, guaranteed work. Drive the price down, then allow the homeowners to come in and sign up and say, hey, I've got 5 trees. I'll take that at that unit price, whatever it is, $25 a tree or $30 a tree. The homeowner pays for that. The POA doesn't. The POA is leveraging our buying power to drive down the cost. That's what I'm suggesting.
And that becomes a just nightmare for the office. I think the homeowner has to be the one to contact the tree trimmer.
Well, yeah, but this POA has asked people to trim these trees and keep the properties up. I will maintain that if we don't help, we're going to fight.
We can help, but
why not? It's a list.
Yeah, it's a list.
It's an Excel list that has the names.
Okay.
How many trees, where the address is, and
There's a way we can
pay or unpaid.
Okay.
So, Jack.
Anything else?
I think your idea is very sound. I have a neighbor that has a 60-foot tree that badly needs trimming. Nobody can safely go up there and trim it. I don't know what's going to happen.
My guy climbed mine.
That helps us. We were just trying to find out what it was, what the components were, so that when we go back and reassess what we want to do, that helps us. So I appreciate everybody's comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Leslie, and I'll just say thanks to the committee. I know it's a tough job, and we want to see progress. We're in a microwave time. We want stuff quick. So just thanks for the good work and keep on keeping on. Okay, we'll go to the Architectural Control Committee. And again, if we can keep these brief because we're getting into the agenda, and we do have a full executive session tonight.
It's brief. The thing that we have concentrated on at our last meeting is a series of meetings with builders to really track down on them. I don't know whether you need it or not. I may not be here long enough. Anyway, we started our first meeting last Thursday. We had 4 companies represented. We're doing another one this week. And we intend over a period of about 2 weeks to contact every builder. Some of those builders who may not come to our meetings are going to 2 of us are going to go out and meet with them individually so that we get this accomplished in a 2-week period. And what we're doing is utilizing the rules and regulations that we already have, but we really have some teeth in it now. At the end of meeting personally with them, we're sending out a letter to each of them. I think in the handout that you got the wrong letter, so I'm passing out the correct one. That was kind of a first version of it. But take one of those. I don't expect you to read it right now. It's very similar, but it's just got some clarification on a couple of things. Anyway, the deal is, if somebody, whether it's a resident or one of our compliance people, did you get enough over there? Did everybody get one?
Just think that
Bless you. When somebody reports or a compliance officer sees an infraction of the guidelines which exist already and notifies the office, that person, that builder, is going to receive either a phone call, a text, or an email. They get to choose which way they want to do it. The best response and the best person to send it to. They've got 24 hours to get that particular infraction cleaned up. At the end of that 24 hours, if they haven't made arrangements, and yes, there are going to be people who say, my kid's school play is at 4 o'clock, you want this done by 4 o'clock, I can do it at 7. Those kinds of things aren't going to be a problem. But 24 hours to get that cleaned up. If they don't, they get an automatic $50 fine. And the POA has a third-party reference that they can send out. They will clean the lot. Whatever the problem is, there's going to be a minimum of $30 charge. It's $30 an hour to have them clean the lot. Some builders may think that's the best deal and want them to clean it all the time. These are people who want to do this business. They're not POA employees. Anyway, they're going to do that. The builder is going to get an immediate letter saying, you've got a $50 fine, you've been billed $60 for cleanup, and this is coming out of your deposit. Currently, the deposits are $500. There has been a clause that said that they could be larger for many years. Now we're going to enforce that. At the end, during a calendar year, or when a builder receives three fines, $150 minimum, they are going to have their deposit increased to $2,000. Automatic. $2,000 for every construction they have. They can't carry over one to the other. They can't have more than one house going on that same deposit. $2,000 per house. Builders who do a good job of cleaning up are never going to have to worry about that. They're not going to worry about it. So, yes, you have a question now?
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. So, John, have you seen this letter and have you reviewed it for legal?
Not yet.
Well, I don't expect you to do it right now, John, but if you could.
That's his guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That was one of the questions.
Yeah, we contacted John about some specifics on this, but
Good job.
it was okay. Anyway, these guys are going to do this. We have one request from the builders, and this is a request for your brain power to work here. They want to know what they can do about the fact of that roll-on or their trash containment area that overnight is filled with furniture and dishwashers and household garbage and whatever. This is just something for you to do when you have nothing else to do. Figure out what they can do about that. But our builders at the meeting were very cooperative. I think we have a good understanding of what we want now, and we're going to have to be very firm in the POA office in administering all of these.
Something seriously they can cover those.
Yes.
With netting and cable it or something.
Right.
I mean,
We've had years of telling them that. We've told them all kinds of things.
It's a hassle to get into your truck's going back up.
However, by my saying this on something that's being viewed by the public, maybe somebody will say, oh, I shouldn't put my couch in that dumpster.
Agreed.
So that's really the purpose of my bringing it up.
I can just jump in here, Leslie. I'll give you this mic back, I promise. So, instead of the board being asked for solutions, and I think this goes for every committee, the board gives the direction that we want the island clean, or insert whatever directions or directives we've given. The committees are to come back to the board with suggestions. So I don't know. I'm sure individual board members can throw some ideas out there, but
Right. But as I just said to you, the only reason I mentioned it to you as a board is so those people listening can watch it.
Yeah, and I will say,
I really mean you need to come up with this.
Yeah, maybe there are cameras, maybe there are nets or whatever, but that, I think.
Again, yeah.
Okay, I have a
But
question.
that's for them to know.
Okay, on the $30 per hour for the person that's cleaning up, and I don't know which one of you two
who has the answers to this. The questions that I wrote is, was there someone on staff? I get the impression it's somebody external, so I don't need to worry about full-time, part-time. Do we have anything in writing with them? How were they chosen? And what do we do if they're doing the cleanup and there's stuff are they supposed to be hauling it out if there's no receptacle there? So how is that working with that? If we're sending somebody out to do this cleanup, what kind of arrangements do we have with that person?
Thank you. There is a company that we currently use for various tasks, and so he's got guys that work for him, and they do other things too, but we're a priority, and so they will come and do what we want them to. The company is called Round to It. Dave Van is the guy that has it. He does lots of things on the island.
And what's the name again?
Round to It.
Round to It. Do we have, if they're coming and doing this, do we have like a written contract with them?
I have not put anything in writing, but I can if you want it. I've thought of, I knew that was coming, and I've been thinking about it. He's been available. We've been using him. I can certainly put it out to bid, and can do that. For right now, it's like we can go ahead. There are a whole bunch of things that I need to be putting out for bid this fall.
Is he?
And he's insured. Yes, he is insured.
You don't get your money. Is he charging, and maybe this is not something we're supposed to do in open sessions, but one of the questions I have that I want to follow up with is, what is his rate compared to what we're billing?
It's lower than what we're billing.
Okay. And then the receptacle thing, if I know that we've had some issues a couple of times with builders not having receptacles there, and so they've got all this trash now. Are they taking and hauling that trash away? Are they putting it in a pile for the builder to deal with? I mean, what's happening with that?
They
Builders
being fined for not having the receptacles. So
but if we send somebody out to clean it, then and there's no receptacle there, they've got to clean it up. They've got trash. What happens with that trash?
And we haven't done that yet because there's been receptacles, so we haven't had to haul it off, but we could haul it off. POA does have a dumpster that gets used for the canal cleanup stuff that gets hauled out. For the there's trash that goes into that.
Well, I would assume, my point is if we
pick up
as
all
you
over
put
the
something
place.
in writing and stuff with this, if we have to pay for trash haul away or something like that, or the cost to deposit it somewhere, I would assume that also would be included in the cost to them. So
At least we have enough in that to cover.
So, a little bit off subject here, but if we have a contract with somebody, I would, number one, like to have the conflict of interest addressed. I don't know.
There isn't any. I mean, somebody that has been on the island, I don't have any personal relationship with them. Nobody else in our office does.
I'm not saying you.
Nobody else does.
I don't. What if David Van was my brother?
I know he's. I'm very confident.
Okay, so the point being, if we have a contract with someone, or you're paying them contract labor, if we have a contract with someone, the president signs that contract. I haven't signed a contract.
I don't have a contract. I don't have a contract. It's been somebody that I've called on.
And if we do anticipate having a string of work with somebody, I think we ought to have a contract with them.
Yep.
With established rates, and do they have
new thing coming into play here?
Yeah.
Do they generate more?
Do they have insurance? Do
Yes.
they have, so on and so forth?
I know they have insurance.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay.
Nice job.
Marvin.
Marvin's going.
One more.
Okay.
There's a house on Isla Pinta. It's got a brick wall around the front yard, but apparently the owner has carved a giant hole in this wall and has parked his Winnebago in it. Is that your responsibility, or is it a compliance responsibility?
That's something that's done. That would be a compliance responsibility. I mean,
I mean, there was, the guy cut a giant hole in his brick wall and now parks his Winnebago on the front yard and bricks laying around the outside.
Sure you brought it in there?
Yeah, he did. He actually did damage it, and then he just cut it out.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that we really don't have anything to get at. You know, it's one of those weird. I mean, it's like, okay.
You don't have a rule that addresses tearing down your wall and sticking your motor.
We don't have a rule about
Gee.
how
You think we'd have thought of that already?
it's parked perpendicular to the street.
Yeah.
It is not in any of the right-of-ways, and it's one of those, you know, it looks like crap.
Leslie, could your committee
Yes,
look at
come
that
up with
situation and
something,
figure out
please.
what's the recommendation?
It really looks tacky.
It is.
Yeah.
Linda, thank you for your report.
I think that falls under, does it damage the property surrounding?
Yeah, absolutely.
Give us some.
Thank you,
I don't
Linda.
know what, but I will definitely bring it back to
We're going to move to Canals and Waterway Committee comments.
You have the report we gave in June 15th. He is here, I'm here. The gentleman from Parks and Wildlife was a no-show. So we are communicating with him to try to get him to come talk to our committee. And then eventually we're going to set a date so we can come and talk to the board. He may be of some assistance to us as far as the wake difficulties. We are also putting together a PowerPoint presentation for you, the board first, and then we'd like to bring it to City Council on the wake problem. Mia, did I leave anything out? Or do we need to leave?
Just.
Please. And it's a small committee, and I will say small is better because we get more done in like 45 minutes to an hour than I've ever seen it. I mean, we've done good, he's done a good job of delegating what needs to be done, and these folks are motivated.
We are. The main thing we need that we heard from Texas Parks and Wildlife, believe it or not, they said they'd love to come and do periodic enforcement, not all the time. But they said they need to know that the POA wants it done. So we were hoping the board could maybe.
What do they need to have?
Where do I sign?
Just the vote, so it's just not me or Bill.
Well, I think if it's a POA supported effort, then we ought to have it on POA letterhead, sign it, and let's get it to the Parks and Wildlife.
Okay, and also we need the same thing to go to Isaac. We're trying to get Isaac to put pressure on the city to resurrect the two boats that have suddenly been found.
I think they're working on some of that.
They are, but again, if there's something in writing from the board, a letter, a motion saying we want the city to enforce their ordinance.
Can you guys work up a letter and support and then route it? We'll shoot it off to the board. If there's any opposition, we'll modify the letter and get it done. Thanks.
I guess the one thing I have with that, and we talked about this when I was at your meetings, is I think that everybody knows along the way that we want the city to do these things, but I don't know that there is enough. I mean, yeah, we can send a letter saying, yeah, we support making that happen, but I think that the city's going to come back with the exact same. The city's going to come back with the exact same things of we don't have the money, we don't have the this, we don't have the that, and so just saying we want them to try to make this happen, I'm not sure is going to be.
No, she's not talking about the boats and the city boats. She's talking about the Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Okay, I'm talking about the sending to ISAC. I'm talking about POA strongly encourages ISAC and the city council to push for the city police department and other agencies to enforce the no-wake zone. I don't think, I mean, we can say that all day long, but unless we come up with something new, it's, okay, so we're telling them and they're going to say, okay, we want it too, but they're still going to have those same issues.
But
But we can't
unless we
solve their
tell them,
problems,
they can't say
Leslie.
no. I mean, they can walk away and enforce, which is what they've been doing. Until we have something formal, just like you have a contract with the people, if you have a motion that says, we want the city to enforce. And yes, they may say no, but it gives us more push when we're talking to Texas Parks and Wildlife and other agencies around the world. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Wait, one more thing, sorry. The only other thing I have on here is it says we'll try to start putting canals and waterways info article into the Island Moon on a regular basis.
Yes.
The one thing that I told my committee, and I want to strongly encourage all the committees, is please make sure that the board liaisons or somebody is reviewing those before.
That's my job, yeah.
All right, thank you. We will move on to Bylaws, Policies, and Procedures Committee. Marvin, and I refer to Carter on this one.
Well, let me explain where we stand. We've not accomplished anything. Unfortunately, Daryl has been tied up with work and family and just unable to participate for personal reasons. I believe Carter has drafted a letter that he'd like to have presented, and I have a proposal for the board that I would like to present. Carter, would you like to talk about the letter? Or no?
Well, the letter is to the board, but you know, I certainly disagree with spending 5 hours of my life on this so far and having accomplished nothing. I certainly have been working on the bylaws or the policy manual. I mean, I've made my corrections to it and stuff.
Well, I was saying we don't have anything in writing to present unless you brought something of the bylaw changes and so on.
Well, I mean, I have my scratched up piece, but I thought the plan was for us to individually work on these things and get together from time to time to scratch through the ultimate deal. But what I'm suggesting is that I think that this board has its ability, to grab some. I mean, I think between Billish and Primavera and some of these other things we're working on, I think the timing, summer, travel, I think the timing to work on something as serious as this is just not good, and I would suggest that we maybe work on it as a whole board in the future, October, November, when we have time.
So hold on, I want to hear from the committee first. The chair. The chair. So the chair of the committee, maybe that's the chair. The chair of the committee is Marvin, and Daryl Scanlon and Carter Tate are members. So if you guys are, whatever you need to do, if you've marked it up, he's the chairman, get it to him. Marvin, you bring the reports and the recommendations back to the board. So we got your letter, and Carter, I'm going to paraphrase, I'm not reading the whole thing, but it's basically saying, hey, we've got a lot going on, in Billish and the Primavera and summer and all that, and that we may need to delay this committee. I want to hear from the committee chair on what you think moving forward, because I'm not asking you, Marvin, to worry about the Primavera bulkhead and Village Park and all that. When you came on the board, your expertise is from an attorney standpoint is that you could go through these and help come up with modifications, and that's where I'm at. So I'll yield to you.
What I've done is put together a proposal, and I think we've passed it around for everybody to look at. It's pretty apparent that our governing documents are pretty old. They're over 40 years old. The covenants in my particular subdivision were entered in 1969. They haven't kept pace with the times, although some covenants have been updated over the years, and even the articles of incorporation were amended and then unamended at one point. And we do have some problems with the bylaws, and the board policy manual may be in conflict with the Texas Property Code. So therefore, I'm proposing, as you can see from my handout, that a committee of 8 people from the POA membership be gathered to form a committee to study the problems and perhaps then generate a report that will offer to update the different documents. If we have specific legal issues, then we would consult Mr. Bell here, I guess. The committee will be open meetings. It's going to be a pretty long and drawn out project to go through all of this. I anticipate it will take several months. Would like y'all to consider this proposal and not to vote on it today. We can certainly discuss it. Or you can contact me directly and I'll be happy to chat with anyone. I'm asking for an opinion at the next board meeting, not today, but the next, so everyone has adequate time to review the proposal and give some comments and thoughts on it. Thank you.
Have you are you planning on reviewing the covenant?
Yes.
Well, that wasn't part of our task.
Well, I would like to add it to the task then.
So you guys have any discussion? I've got my own thoughts, and I'll wait till the rest of the board speaks.
Well, I think you understand if we're going to change covenants that incurs a vote.
It says a
very serious vote.
A very arduous task.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Just out of curiosity, first of all, I'm a little bit concerned that the committee has not agreed upon something before coming to the board. To tell you guys that's something that I think is wrong. So I really wish you guys could have agreed upon something before bringing it to the board. But beyond that, if we're talking about that this is a very large undertaking, I would hope that we could do part of the stuff and maybe take it in increments as opposed to making it such a large undertaking, you know, particularly the policies and procedures. To me, that's the one that I think that from near and dear to our heart, to what we need first before we start getting into bylaws and covenants and all the rest of the stuff. I mean, I would say policies and procedures, to me, in my personal opinion, that's the ones I would rank the highest. Maybe that would help bring it down some.
And you could probably even break it down more minutely by saying which policies and procedures need to be prioritized to look at first, second, and third. That would be my comment.
That's what I was going to say.
So, Marvin, again, going back to when this committee was actually appointed you as the committee chair, and asked for volunteers, and then chose that committee based on the qualifications and experience. So are you, as the committee chair, saying that the 3 members, one being the committee chair, and the 2 members don't have the experience or the knowledge to do the task that was assigned?
No, I would disagree with that. I don't think that's fair to these folks.
No, I'm asking. That's what I'm asking.
Daryl hasn't been able to participate.
I understand.
So he's offered his to withdraw from the committee, if I understand correctly. So Carter and I have had many discussions, at least a 1-2 hour discussion over this, and if the board wants to limit the review of the documents just to the board's policies, we can certainly do that. Carter and I can sit down and hammer those out and return them in the future. My view is, though, that because our documents are so old and really out of step with today's needs of the homeowners, that we should begin a process of reviewing all of them. Now, I'm not saying any board member isn't competent to do that, because these things are, these documents and these governing items are part of the homeowner's fabric, I think we should include homeowners in the process.
Yeah, that's precisely what you were assigned to do, is go,
No.
oh, because I assigned it. I asked you to do it.
Well, I understand you asked us to do
And
it, but I don't recall anything about homeowners being involved.
I asked to go through the policies and procedures and identify issues that might need to be changed. That comes back to the board, and if there's further action, then we act on that action. It's not that we disband and go form another subcommittee and you choose the 8 members.
Well, if you'll read that, that's a proposal. So if you want to limit what Carter and I do, maybe we could get one more board member to help us. We will then go back and do just exactly what you would like done.
And maybe identify where there may be some proposed changes or updates, or hey, this section no longer applies. So, bring it back to the board. We haven't even had an opportunity to discuss it amongst ourselves and with is it legal? And
the truth of the matter is that first of all, it's a board policy. So you don't go out to members for a board policy manual, first of all. And secondly, the truth of the matter is that all of the policies are in there. It's just organization, and there's some older numbers in it, and there's some repetitive stuff, and it's really more of an administrative task what needs to happen to the board policy manual. It's, if you go through it, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, John did the best he could with what he had to work with, and giving them all title numbers and stuff like that. But he didn't want to change anything or eliminate anything, so he just kept it all in there. And so it's difficult to use. It's difficult.
So the committee you're the chair of the committee. John's taking the initiative and the direction to restructure that, renumber it, get it. So now your committee is to go back and look at that and say, item 6 no longer applies. We don't use typewriters anymore, or whatever it is. Bring it back to the board, and then we discuss it, as opposed to going and forming another 8-person committee, which in your proposal says, you'll chair that committee. We're already chairing this committee, and nothing's been done since May 17th. So, and then you'll choose the members from the list of applicants. Well, I've chosen you, and then you've chosen the members.
No, I didn't choose the members. You chose them. Maybe we could get one more board person to add to our committee to replace Daryl.
Sure.
Any volunteers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
We can handle it.
Okay. If nobody wants to volunteer.
Well, we've got committee chair. Jack, if you'd like to.
Jack, you want to jump in on this? Tell him the truth.
All right, so you guys can knock that out.
But
let's bring some recommendations about.
Yeah, all right.
We trust you.
I do believe that we should take a hard look at all these governing documents, because they are way behind the times and they do need to be updated. So if we can't do it in the near future, let's bring it back again when maybe we're not so busy yet.
And again, I think that Marvin, if you want to look through that and say, let's prioritize, if you guys want to get together and say, man, it's too much to grab all the documents at once, let's focus on one.
Oh, I definitely think we should
then do it that way.
Well, you do have to make sure they dovetail though.
Sure.
So sometimes you just have to change both of them simultaneously.
And you're an attorney. We'll rely on your expertise to bring us back recommendations.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. All All right, executive coordinator report. Before we move forward, I should have done this, Maybeth, because I asked you to bring the information with respect specifically to the house, and I don't know the address, 14705 Lighthouse. Should have covered this during the ACC report, but I asked you to provide the board a background on what kind of action has been taken, what steps you guys have taken, and I want to know, are we being proactive? Are we, what have we done with this contractor? Because we did have a complaint last time, and now we've got another complaint, and I'd really like to understand what we've done as a POA. I apologize for backing up.
No problem. I was going to cover it in mine. I provided the list, which is going around, that matches up with all those pictures of when we were there on site, and right now we're at $250 in fines. And today, because the pictures that were done today are the very last ones, obviously that site has not been cleaned, even though they were given notice, and so that builder got a nasty gram from me on my an email. I've had it with her, and her next house is going to cost $2,000 because it's ridiculous. I can't. We've used all kinds of tactics trying to get her attention. I'd like to hit her over the head with the board. And it's an extremely frustrating one. And I really do want to say the issue about the sand in the gutter. And what I thought I was communicating is, if we have a homeowner and they have some sand in the gutter, they will not get a letter for if that is their only violation that they have. We do. If the gutter is, you can't see the gutter and there are weeds growing in it, and it's very obviously blocking the flow of water down that street, and that was the only violation, yeah, we would be on them, and we have a couple of them that have in fact been cleaned, but we don't send out a violation if that's the only one, and that really comes from the direction of the advisory committee telling us that we don't do just one.
So maybe I'm looking at this list that you provided and the pictures with dates documenting whether it's clean or and these are, every one of these, Carter, I'm not hot.
No,
I
thought I was not going to make.
Each one of these is when you guys have been out to that house, and I'm looking at the list, and it's every 3 days, 4 days.
It's always the Monday and Friday of the week that we go out. And then if we told them they needed to clean it up, we go back the next day to see if they've done it. And,
Are we obligated to let builders like this build out here?
Well, I mean,
Can we just say, that's your last house, adios, amigos? They're like the people that are throwing the couches in the builder's dumpsters. You're never going to change them.
Yeah, that's the legal question, and I don't think we can. That's frustrating that the ACC has been going through, that I've been asking about it. The other thing, and that's something that I'd like some advice from John in executive session to really talk about the houses where we've had fines that people are, really saying screw you. That's kind of the situation with a couple of our builders. It's like, okay, we've got the fines and we can do that, but sometimes I think we need a bigger club, and I'd like to talk about what the bigger club could be.
Well, yeah, it may not be it may be the opposite. Instead of a bigger club, we may have to, there's some other things I think we need to investigate. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, all options, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm really, very anxious to try
try to
But
come up with.
truth be told, there's just a few that are real pills.
Oh, yeah, I could say that right off the top of my head, I can say we have probably 4 that give us real fits, and they are habituals, and they're, and we've kept their money. It doesn't seem to matter to them, and I just don't know, I'm really looking for, give me some more suggestions.
And Brenda, I think I know where you were coming from as far as, rather than hammer the incentive. And we had a program, Linda's left, I think about a year or 2 ago, we had Builders of the Month. Well, that is like talking to the choir.
Yeah.
And it was nice, and they got recognition, they got pictures in the paper, blah, 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 blah. That's not going to change us 5%.
Okay.
So, but I hear what you're saying.
Yep.
It would be nice if you could say, free beer on us if you clean up, but it don't work.
I buy it for a 6-pack more.
I drink the second.
Yeah, I want more free.
Maybe
right now.
Maybe an 8-foot fence around those builders' property.
We did have a builder that came in with, somebody had put boxes that had their home address labels on them. And he took everything out that he could identify as came from that property, and he delivered it back to the house. And we said, thank you very much. How to get people's attention. It's frankly why we do not have the recycle bin over at the ramp, is because people were putting automobile parts, oil, washing machines, anything in a recycle bin that was for paper, plastic, and and cardboard. So, we have people that just don't seem to get it, or don't want to, or think they can do whatever they want to. And it is, education doesn't work. I mean, Carl, our canal cleanup guy, says, we need to be in the schools educating kids about throwing stuff and, throwing trash away and not putting it in containers. I said, Carl, it's been going on since at least my daughter, who is now almost 50, was in school, and obviously it hasn't done anything. And so
one thing we can do to educate the community, and I would encourage the community to do this, is I stopped the other day when someone was dumping stuff into a dumpster. I stopped, I explained to them what the issue was. I explained to them that they could not put that stuff in there. They tried to tell me that they were friends with the builder, and I said, that's not a problem. And when I take your picture, and I take a picture of your license plate, and I share that with the builder, I'm sure they'll be able to vouch for you. They kindly drove away with their stuff. If more people would do that, we might be able then to get the builders to be a little more cooperative on the other side, because we can say, hey builders, we're doing our part, you need to do your part. And maybe we can get more of a compassionate going back and forth.
Leslie, I called my neighbor and reported this before I came out here, with his son changing the oil in his car in the garage, pouring the oil on the storm sewer.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
I got pictures of it. I jumped out and just waylaid on it. But I mean, he was teaching his son that.
Yeah.
That's sad.
We had renters next door to us, and they had the boat in the road, and there was gasoline. These are naval officers. I went to the door. I said, your boat's leaking gasoline. Oh, no, it's not. It's not the smell. Somebody dropped a cigarette, the whole neighborhood goes up. And I called Sam, our compliance officer. She called the city. Hazmat was out there. I jumped in that kid's face. And yes, you can do that, but I'm glad you didn't have a shotgun, or it was like some nutcase. So.
All right, you got a report. So, anything else you want to cover in here?
So you ever tell you about the guy in the microwave with the gas in the microwave wanting to commit suicide?
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock.
I think everything else is continuing.
story later.
All right.
Do we have a policy for capital items?
Yeah, that is one thing that I did want to touch on in your report. It talks about the IT update. This is where I think we may have a disagreement. So we have some watch guard equipment recommended by the IT from Compu Integration. The total cost is $22,26. I would like to see, when we're making purchases, that's the total cost for that component. It's kind of similar to the question that I was asking Marvin earlier. All right, our capital cost to buy some cameras and tripods and stuff like that is X amount, but what is the other cost that falls on it? So we may have a $2,200 cost here, but we have to do other things that continues to stack onto that cost, which then
Warranties and
or a server room or whatever it
Well,
is that
this-
really balloons the cost to.
That's right.
20
This
grand.
is only for the, the protection that you kept telling me I needed to do.
You believe it, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And that's what this is. It comes with a 1-year warranty, a 1-year license on it. And I'm not going to remember what the number is. It's like, I believe the renewal on it is, I want to say it's $300 for next year. So this is the router, the thing that protects us. They install, and this is their installation. This is their total cost. They install it, they set it all up, they do the wiring for it. The server and the new equipment is a separate thing that will be a separate bid, and that requires the server room and stuff like that. This is the security part of the first step, which is we could do now. The server and the rest of the thing is going to be more money, and we have to put that in the budget because we don't have it there right now unless we put it under the capital programs, which we could do.
Yeah, I don't know about the rest of the board, but I'd like to see what is the big picture.
Right.
If we're going to spend 10 grand,
yeah,
what are we doing?
Right. I totally agree with that, and that's why we will have that detail for you at that point, and we're not there yet. This was the first step to get this security stuff done.
All right.
You're assuming we do it all at the same time?
No, because one
She's
we can
saying
do
she's going to
immediately.
put the security in place in our system, and then there are some IT upgrades that we need to consider down
the road.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Maybeth. Treasurer's report.
Yeah, she's just stepped out to go use the restroom, I guess. It is in your packet. I did talk about the breakdown in the legal fee. The further itemization I will get. I totally, now that you wrote it, it's like, yeah, I remember what you were saying.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, so my questions on the financial is, on the accounting services, we may not know this right now, but was there any balloting expense included in that accounting services line? I know she does the audit for us.
And that's where the audit is included in there. And then our net payment is also our $300 a month that we pay for our bookkeeper is included in that too.
Because then I would advise that she needs to move the accounting, because that one is part of the balloting expense line. It really should be on our balloting expense. If the portion of her accounting services that was not a true accounting service, it was the audit for the ballot, that money needs to be placed into the balloting expense line.
And it is. That's where you've got the 15,000 under development.
Right. So the 14,000 that's there, all of that is true accounting.
Yes.
Legal, we already talked about breaking out. And then I had one more. General maintenance for the building.
Yeah, that is, we have a person that does cleaning for us on weekends. We have treated for pest control. We did some electrical upgrades. We had the light that was outside of that lit up our billboard shorted out, and so we had that replaced. There also is an outlet out there that was also shorting out, and so they came in and repaired that, and we added 2 more outlets in the office because we needed them. And we put gutters on the rest of the building. We had it on the one side after we had the flood, and then the interior flood, and found that our plate was in really bad shape. But then we started to have a problem in our file room where the water was accumulating on that one side, and so we put gutters on the thing, and we no longer have the files in that bottom. Excuse me, on that bottom on that side of the building getting wet. And I made a note on something, and I can't.
You had some AC stuff done earlier last year.
No, it wasn't this year. He does come in and change our filter because it's not a garden variety filter that's in the thing, because that AC unit was put in 2010. We replaced it.
So do we have an annual contract or something with the cleaning service?
No, that again is an individual that comes in and does it.
An ad hoc basis?
No, every weekend we have it done.
So is this something that we could bid out?
Sure.
We can do that. Work and annually put it out for bid?
Yep.
And do it on an annual basis? You monitor the progress and when they show up and all that. I would like to back up a little bit. When you asked the question on the balloting expense, it made me think, Marvin, this is back to your policies and procedures committee. I really think we need to avoid what happened in the last balloting session and voting and all that. And I would like to see our policies and our procedures for conducting an election. That means we have a lockbox. Who controls the lockbox? Who handles it? Who counts the votes? All the things that were floating around, and just have something clearly written where we're all on the same page. So, I mean, we've got annual elections, right? That in the last time we're going to see things. So, if we just have something that's written, maybe that's your first thing that you could focus on.
Just so I'm clear on the scope of the project, okay, do you want the entire procedure, including what goes on the ballot, or are you just saying how to handle the ballots after they're?
I think we do elections, so I would start with that. It's the whole process that, we had letters going back and forth, and we spent a lot of time and effort and money answering questions and jumping through the hoops. So I think the answer is everything.
Yeah, there is an old policy, and I think you could start with that and rework it, because I think there's some problems with it.
And I think John's already outlined a whole lot of this. I mean, there were...
Well, yeah, I mean, we have a couple of things. We have the bylaws that provide our elections, and we have the procedures that and we do have something in the board policy book about how candidates file in that process there.
Yes.
But then all the procedures about the ballot box and stuff is just the procedures that we know to do. I mean, nobody's bothered to write them down. Somebody asked a confirmation of what they were. What they were. But
back to the engineerish part of it, I like checklists. I like to know that somebody's going to say, oh, we didn't forget that we have to have a lockbox. And then, there's a group of folks that it just opens the door for questions. And not that I don't suspect anything. It's just we check
The- you know,
or dot the i's and cross the t's.
The language is in there that we have to hire somebody outside to handle the ballots, and it would be their procedure. They're responsible for them. The accounting firm, she's got a license to lose over this sort of thing. But I mean, you know, we can write that down, but what if it's not their policy? I mean, what if they come out and they send somebody out every day to give them on?
Then they look at our policy and say it's different, and here's how we propose to do it differently. I just think we need to be clear about what
We can have a more detailed, there's already one section in the board policy manual about elections. We can expand on that to have a discussion about all the issues that did come up about what goes on the ballot, when
And what
ballots
I'm
are
asking
mailed.
is that this committee do that.
Right. When ballots are mailed and how they're handled when they come back and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, all right. Now, back to the finances.
I only have one other request on finances, and that is on the balance sheet. Could you just ask, I know the QuickBooks does this and stuff, but when she prints them, if we could get the balance sheet as compared to 12/31 of the prior year, so that I've got something to compare to when I'm looking at.
Finances?
Sure.
Question. I noticed that our bank balance at the UBS Bank is over $800,000. That's significantly above the FDIC insurance limit. Have we given any consideration on how to keep our balance below that in the event of a bank failure? We wouldn't get tagged with a $600,000 loss.
It's $500,000. Is UBS subject to that? It's not a bank.
No, they're an investment.
Right.
If they're operating as a banking function, maybe they only qualify for FDIC. I think if you're under SIPC, it's $2 million, as I recall. Maybe we could determine whether they're SIPC or FDIC, and then we could feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I think on UBS, it's not an FDIC, it's the securities insurance that they have.
Right. Let's verify that if you wouldn't mind.
No, they have to.
I really doubt that investment group would set something up this phone. What is that?
Well,
Double check. All right, any other comments, questions? We will accept the trade card. Annual budget. Do we need to talk about the emergency investment account update? It's on the agenda.
That's the HPO, that's part of it.
Okay, so part of the package.
That's
All
part of the
right.
whole thing, yeah.
All right, we'll move on to recurring business. Village Park, we've already talked about that. Any other discussion?
No.
All right. Primavera Canal reconstruction project, talked about that. We'll go on to new business. Discussion regarding potential property owner survey. That's the discussion. Anybody have any comments? Josh, you want to come up and do a couple minute intro here?
Oh, you need an intro, huh?
Yeah.
My name's Josh. I have a
Like a movie trailer.
I have a master's in public administration from Texas A&M. That involves basically it's nonprofit management is what the focus is on, which statistical significance is a big deal in that field. And I know that you guys have discussed the survey, the idea of the survey, using a group called Qualtrics to do that. And I did see the video of the last meeting. The price was thrown out there, and there was gasps. So I want to explain a little bit about what goes on with that. First and foremost, I think everyone agrees that we need to do a survey. It's been 10 years since we've done a survey on the island. And just based on the evaluation that I've done since I've been here, just observation, a lot of the things that the POA does, a lot of the things that residents do, a lot of the things that contractors do when they come in, it's based on anecdotal evidence, it's kind of based on tradition. This is the way we've always done things, let's keep doing it that way. And so the survey, it would allow us to direct our resources to areas important to property owners in the protection of their investments. So it would make sense that you guys would have reservations about spending a substantial amount of money to administer a survey. However, it's not just a survey. My idea for the survey is that it directs where we go to develop our 5-year strategic plan. So when we're developing a strategic plan, when we're deciding what direction we want to go, it's going to be based on the input of the property owners based on the surveys that we're planning to distribute. And we can also, I know that has came up, the idea of getting a committee together for this, committee together for that. What we can find out is what's important to the property owner and what committees we need to create based on what the property owners want us to do. With that, we can review current budgeting practices, we can review regulations with the data we gather, develop and modify practices where it's deemed necessary. And with Qualtrics, what this does, it's not just a survey monkey where you just go on there and you click your button and then you have a guy sitting there calculating it. What Qualtrics does, it makes it streamlined and easier. So the most important thing I think for a lot of people is it's one survey per household. Qualtrics only allows one survey per household. There is other survey programs that do that. However, when we get into the statistics part of it, they don't have the same features that Qualtrics does. So it automatically calculates statistical significance. We can go into detail if you want to about that, but that's very important. And it looks for relationships and trends. What interests me as a statistician is those trends, because that'll help us prepare for demographic and priority shifts further down the road. So while maybe a certain group of people only make up 20% of our population, when we look at those statistical relationships, we're going to be able to see that that particular group is expected to grow by 30% in the next 10 years. So we're not only taking care of the people who are the majority homeowners today, but we're also preparing for the people down the road. Because when we look at those statistical relationships, maybe these people want this. While it's not very popular right now, it's going to be hugely popular in 5 years. And so we're going to be able to prepare for that in our strategic plan. And the program automatically calculates statistical significance, which helps ensure the relationships between variables mean something and is not simply coincidental. So if you're having 1,500, 2,000 surveys come in, I can sit there in an Excel sheet and I can go through a 30-question survey, and that means someone has to put in a statistical significance calculation and formula for every single one of those questions and every single one of those to make sure that that's a legitimate statistical relationship. You don't have to do it with the program. It's calculated on the fly. And this allows us, the big feature, another big feature of Qualtrics is allows us to create really easy to read graphical infographics that we can put up, and we can present hard numbers as to why we're doing the things that we're doing. Instead of just asking people to trust us. This is the hard numbers, this is what the survey results were coming from, or this is why we're doing the things that we're doing. It'll be in black and white right there. So ultimately that $5,000 price tag, that's $1 a survey to get all of these features. So we're getting 5,000 surveys with it. And it gives us an idea of exactly who we're serving. We'll know exactly who we're serving. And so long as we can get a good amount of people to come and take this survey, which is going to be easy to do because it's going to be online based, we'll actually know where our policies need to go, what direction we need to move, not only as a board, but as a community, where we're going. And that's why Qualtrics was the one that really stood out. Full disclosure, I have used it before, so I know how to use it. So there's no learning curve. just so you guys know that, but it's very specific. It's very specific for what it does.
So the $5,000 survey cost is to the software developer. Then we have the internal in-house expenses that are for you to process data and come up with a report and recommendations.
Right. Once the basically Qualtrics is the method. Worrying about the questions and all of that stuff, that's putting the cart before the horse, in my opinion. Once we get the method of delivery, that it's basically taken care of. So my hourly time that I'm in there, clicking away, that's the administrative cost.
Yeah, we just had some investment. That's the point I'm making now. Discussion from the board.
I like the fact that the survey gives us some prediction about the trends of where our community is going. Because those of us who have been here for 20 years, we've seen a change in demographics. And if this survey does what you said it can do, that's going to help us with a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan. And school districts use similar things when they're building their plans for the future. So that's a very significant positive that I see with this program. It's the first I've heard of the program, but now I like that aspect of it for sure.
On the comment he made, I guess, with Marvin's committee, we're going to do this survey and it's going to affect all these policies and everything. That's another cart before the horse there as well. We may want to, if we're going to do this, it may affect the timing of and his decisions on what he does. Come up with.
I'm a little confused as to how the future population is determined.
Okay, so it's going to exhibit trends. It's called a p-value in statistics. And basically what's going to happen is you're going to have a group of people. So we'll say there's a group of 20 to 27-year-old homeowners. And they only, yes, we're just doing this for an example. But you have a group of 20 to 27-year-old homeowners, and they only make up 2% of the population. But of that 2% of that population, 95% of them mark that they want a community pool. Okay? So what that's showing us, and most likely what's going to happen, and we're going to have to do some self-calculations for trending and things like this, but that group is going to continue to want a pool for the rest of their time here on the island, right? No matter how old they get. So, well, right. But, so it's, what that program has done right there is I ask it to calculate p-values so I can find statistical significance. And immediately it's going to pop up these relationships between all of these questions. And then it's going to say, well, of this particular group, 86% overwhelmingly support the idea of a community garden. So that's where we're going to be able to look at future trends. That's how that's calculated.
Where did these questions come from?
Those are just sample questions that the idea is you want as much quantitative data as possible.
Okay, but where did they come from? Did Qualix make these? Did you make them?
No, I made them.
You made them? Okay.
I made them.
Thank you.
So yeah, you want a mixture of quantitative and qualitative. You want as much quantitative as you possibly can get because people tend to answer quantitative over qualitative questions.
Very good, thank you.
And this survey would be emailed to everybody we can email it to. And then, but that's only what, we got 2,200 maybe?
No, about 1,500 emails.
1,500? So how will we get the rest?
It's also, we can set up a, what Qualtrics sets it up for is where they provide a web link that's direct. So we can
advertise
that. They also offer us a QR code. So if someone's walking down in a local business, they can scan the QR code with their phone and it'll immediately take them to the website in order to.
confused because I thought that we actually talked about this last meeting or the meeting before, and that we talked about we needed to go ahead and go to a workshop and really get the questions that we would be interested in, and then we could also talk about. I still have, I mean, I love the idea of electronic and online. However, we have a large population that is not going to be electronic and online, and so whatever we do, I think we need to have a means for the non-electronic part of the community to also be able to respond to surveys. I mean, we can't, as much as I'd love to force them into this, because it makes it easier for putting the data together, we have to serve our entire community, and we have some community that is not going to respond electronically.
Any way we could study that? How many we got?
We just got to get them all. I mean, we really need to hear from all of them if we're going to do this, so we have to have some mechanism.
I think you'd be amazed, Leslie. You are looking at technophobia. Oh, youngster. You can't navigate banking and everything. I think you're selling the older folks very short.
I'm not just talking about older. Let me give you an example. At my work, we have a population of primarily our EBS department and our plant ops department, and they do not use the computer. They do not in any way, shape, or form. We have to sit down with them to make them do their thing. They don't though. That's what I'm saying is I want to make sure that we reach the entire population, because this is not an age thing per se. Brent's grandfather was 100. He was almost 102 when he passed, and that man could way out surf me any day. So it's not just it's just a matter of part of our population is not going to be electronic. So I just want to make sure we serve and get responses from.
Going to all this trouble to make sure that the data is on target and not, 6 votes out of one house and all this other stuff. If we're only going to end up getting 2,200 out of 5,600, I mean, can we use that data effectively?
Yes, because from a statistical standpoint, 2,600 is better than anecdotal evidence or based on surveying 5 people verbally. So yes, it is significant. It's extremely significant.
Would it only cost us $2,600?
We can, but then the problem you run into.
What do you say?
The problem you run into is what if we have 3,000? I mean, we can. The quote that was generated for us is based on the assumption that we're going to have 5,000 responses. Now, understand, if 1,500 people respond, we haven't used up all of our responses. So if we see a trend that we need to ask further questions about, we still have 3,500 responses left that we can go further into detail and ask them.
Could take 30 minutes.
Your average response rate for surveys and stuff is right around 5 to 10% of the people that you notify to try to get responses back.
I think last time we did it 10 years ago, but it was still statistically significant.
It is. I just think we need to go.
So you did with a horse's button?
Yes.
All right, so
you're on tape.
I think the workshop is the ticket.
Well, to come up with the questions, you want to have a workshop. These questions are just his idea.
So
the first step though is you want to do a survey this way. You don't waste your time coming up with questions if you don't want to spend $5,000 for a survey.
Yeah, that's exactly what my discussion is about.
I think it's probably
Well, that's unfortunate because, my vote is based on the questions.
Well, I think what we need to do is, hypothetically, we're going to have a good set of questions from everybody. Just assume that. And the end result, the question should be, assume we have a good set of questions. Do we get a good a data set out of that that's useful? If we put $5,000 into something, are we going to get something that's worth $5,000 and I think you said it, don't focus on the questions right now. We'll get the questions if the survey is
okay. Yeah, so the question is, is the ultimate data that we're gonna get from it, $5,000 useful?
That's the question we need to answer,
Right.
and then I'll go back to a couple of statements. It's been a month since we've talked about this. It's been a month since we've talked about a workshop, and we're not further down the road. So we need to be further down the road tonight, and then next month we need to be further down the road significantly.
I will say, and if I don't have to apologize, I will say that Qualtrics will help us. They will help us develop our questions to ensure that we get statistical significant relationships. And that's not fixing the questions. That's not what that means, but it's just to make sure that we get statistical significant relationships. So they will be happy to jump in on the workshop.
I think, in the big picture of things, some of the expenses, that we have related to keeping people satisfied and happy and nice, and stuff. $5,000 is like shouldn't be, compared to the legal fees of
Imagine we spent $5,000 in legal fees.
Yeah.
To know.
So do we have a motion?
I have a motion.
Yeah.
That we go forward with this and go into the workshop for the questions and maybe get some leadership from Qualtech first.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good experience.
I'll
and
second.
considering the income of this operation, right?
Just on the discussion side, there's no way we can do a non-electronic, we can't accept any non-electronic route to get that.
Absolutely. The way that can be done is, we've had to do it in the past when I've administered surveys for large public organizations. What you have to do is you do a direct mail, and it's very similar to what we do with our balloting system where it's barcoded. Then you have a non-biased person, whoever that may be, enter it into the electronic system, because regardless, it has to be entered into the electronic system or the math, it doesn't help.
We're going to have a biased person.
So Josh, I think.
And
unbiased.
But why would anybody?
Nobody would be.
No, that's ridiculous.
Well.
So you guys did a good job putting this business case for the.
But we are working on the business case.
Yeah, Padre Island Property Owners Association Network Security 2017-18. It's all in your package, and it kind of goes through what have you thought about, why is this a good investment, why are we doing this, what are you asking the board for? I think it'd be a good idea to have that type of analysis on something like this, because what I just heard when you guys were talking was we're going to pay $5,000 for this survey, but then there's some other costs. There's some other things that we're talking about costing here. If we're going to do a mail out, we know the mail outs are, we just went through that. So what is the total cost for this survey?
My thought on the mail out was it's part of our newsletter which needs to be going, and it would be an insert in our newsletter.
Okay.
And that's the way they do it.
Good idea.
Okay.
Josh, we could print that iPhone thing in the moon in the newsletter.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I think if you sit through these questions, then you've thought about that and you illustrate that to the board. But Marvin?
Josh, could you succinctly state what we get from Qualcomm? Is that the right name?
Qualtrics?
Qualtrics.
Qualtrics?
Qualtrics, okay.
Yes, what we get from basically what we get is what used to take 5.5 days of a guy sitting in front of a computer, a gal sitting in front of a computer, putting it into an Excel spreadsheet and then putting in the formulations and all the calculations and everything. Now it takes 30 seconds. The minute I click that button, that calculation is already done. That's what you're getting out of that.
Well, we can also get a system that has a sophistication better than SurveyMonkey or something that restricts IP addresses that are participating in your survey.
I think that's more.
You have a secure system.
I think that's the most important, Josh, because if we look at just strict costs, there's a few people around the table that might say, we'll pay you a week to sit there on an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, I did that.
Come
It's gonna be a lot of hours.
Well, I think we're gonna come out cheaper than $5,000 a week.
No, every question he does that to.
Yeah, so you think, I'm not very good at articulating these things. I'm good at with numbers and stuff. I'm not good at it. But for every question, you have 30 questions. And so I have to find a relationship.
Yeah,
for
I
every
get it.
single.
I understand the value in it. I'm just, you gotta watch what.
John, do
I
y'all do these sort of things in your firm? Or?
Well, no, I mean, it's not a law firm, but in doing surveys, you have to decide which way you want to do. You can do a cheap, you can do an inexpensive survey monkey thing that can be easily manipulated.
Yeah.
But for a small group, it's a great idea. It's a great way to get a quick snap poll for something small. We can get a survey company to telephone people and do a scientific random sample, calling people, and that's got its problems and its limitations there. Or you can use a source like this to do surveys.
Have you heard of this before?
But I do think you do have to invest in some time to what I call beat the bushes in order to do follow-up mailings to some to make sure you get a more broad representation. Although the key thing to me that would be helpful is it is going to smoke out all your activists, and that the activists are going to respond to the survey.
Right.
And that's a good thing. The good thing is you're not letting them get too active in voting 8 times. They can only vote 1 time, but you are smoking out the activists and finding out where their head is on all these different issues, which would be valuable. And it's better than calling them on the phone. It's better than a paper survey. It's better than a manipulated survey. Yeah. So.
All right, so we have a motion. We have
One last comment. I have to agree with Leslie. If we can't go beyond the email, I see Mr. Smith didn't get an email because he doesn't do email, and where the hell is my survey?
He's going to get a newsletter.
Yeah. So if we can't mail it to him and give him an opportunity to mail it back, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, well, we've got.
And we can't.
Okay.
That covered?
Yeah.
We can get that.
Newsletter goes to every address.
So we have a motion.
And a second.
Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So, Josh, I assume you're with that direction. There will be a workshop set up.
Yes, sir.
And invite the board, open meeting to discuss moving forward. And hopefully we'll see another report that shows significant progress by next month. Thank you.
And bring a cake.
And a pizza.
Okay, so next is,
We're gonna need some optional dates to look at, that should notice.
yeah, Josh will work through that soon. Okay, the next item was discussion regarding possible remodeling of existing POA building and scheduling of a special meeting to discuss possible projects. Is that on yours? Okay, so maybe I think you want to take this, or you want me to do the intro, or?
Yeah.
So there's been discussion about if you look in our offices, they're number one dated. Sometimes it's not as inviting as one would. If you look in our covenants and restrictions, bylaws, and high-class marina type community, it doesn't really promote that. There's not the best use of space, in my opinion. I know we've done it in our offices where we've utilized space a lot better. We put more people in less space now. A lot of that has to do with IT and technology and electronic files as opposed to hard copies and things like that. Also gives you a better ability to back up your data and take it on the road or put it in the cloud if a hurricane comes. So that was the discussion. or the thought behind the discussion in a remodel of the POA building. I've got the plans. Maybeth gave me the original plans, which were pretty interesting to see. And I've looked at the structure, and if the board does want to move in that direction to look at some options, I'll offer up services to put a couple of options in front of the board and get some budgetary numbers. So it's up for discussion. But I don't want to, if it's not a real interest of the board, I'd rather swim in my pool and put meat on the barbecue rather than doing plans.
Well, it's needed. There's no doubt about that. It's been needed. I mean,
well, everybody's walking around with their own opinion of updating and stuff, and so, I think that I'm sure the time is here to upgrade some stuff, certainly the bathrooms and things like that in there, but I guess it kind of depends on the money, really. I mean, and
you know what you're looking at.
Maybe moving a wall or two. We've talked about it a bunch. Ditching those files or putting them up in the attic. If you have to keep them, god dang it, I've got a warehouse.
My main thing.
We're restricted by the covenants money-wise for the year anyway.
Absolutely.
We learned that the hard way.
Yeah. No, that was the easy way.
The easy way, yeah.
I'll show you.
We learned it.
But that's a lot of money. I mean, that's $300,000. That's a $80,000 building. Still $300,000 at it. We could do some remodeling.
Don't say the C word at the community center.
It's a question in here that's going to get eliminated. I guarantee you that. If you can't do it, there's no reason to have a question.
Okay, so are you guys okay with coming up with a couple of options? And mainly I think it would. There is no committee.
That's what I thought.
Well, there's a discussion here about Maybeth. We've talked about staff members and workspaces and stuff like that. I think it's not a major remodel. I think it's kind of a simple deal.
Floor coverings, colors.
Yeah, put some
lights,
put some walls up. Move some lights around.
Fix a plate or two.
Yeah. So it's not a.
You're not talking about adding square footage?
No, not at this point. It's more of repurposing the space.
Stairs.
One of the things in order for our upgrade to our IT is we have to have a separate closet for
air conditioner.
Air conditioner.
Easy to grab.
And then there has been some discussion, or some, if you notice in the layouts of Village Park, a bigger bathroom instead of porta potties, maybe adding a bathroom over there that can be locked up at night, cleaned, stuff like that. So maybe it is a small addition or something, but again, that could be all discussed.
It'd be easy to drag on.
Yeah.
Given what they currently work in, it needs to be revamped.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Move forward. All right. Next item is item C, 10C, discussion regarding potential bid solicitation and bulk purchase of exterior home security camera system equipment and or installations to take advantage of POA buying power. So this is similar to the discussion on the palm trees. There's been a lot of discussion online and around the island, and had a neighbor had their vehicle broken into last week. I don't know, I don't, maybe that you may be able to provide some insight here, and I wish the policeman didn't.
I just told him to wait.
But yeah, but I don't think we have high crime compared to the island or the mainland, but I do think a perception is out here that crime, petty crime,
Well, and your builders might want it for their usages.
Yeah, and I think it would just show that we're taking action instead of just blowing it off. Right. So that was why I put it on the agenda for discussion.
I will say that from my discussion with Altman about the Carlos V burglaries that happened to the various automobiles, they were all not locked. That is, without a doubt, the most common thing that happens out here is people don't lock their vehicles and they leave they leave the iPhone, the tablet.
I get that. I understand it, but
yeah,
you know,
but it doesn't diminish it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that again is how do we educate people to not do that?
Here's the thing. I don't think it's smart for me to leave my front door unlocked, and I certainly don't think it's smart for a burglar to come through my front door knowing what.
We don't expect
else. But I also don't think it's the right of a burglar to walk through an unlocked door. Now, it's not smart for a homeowner not to lock doors, but this at least gives an option to somebody. Now, if you're not locking your door, you might not turn on the security system either. So,
yeah, because a lot of people do have security systems in their homes, and you know, I've heard. That's right. I hear that story very often. Oh, I forgot.
So anyway, it's up for discussion, and I'd like to hear what you guys think.
I'm interested in seeing what kind of reach you can get.
Well, I think the first it's an interesting survey.
Oh, put it on survey.
I think the first thing you would need to know is what the demand is, or how many they're going to sell, before they're going to give us a bid on it. So maybe we could get, a bid on 300 of them, or something that we think we could sell, or get some kind of a demand on it. What would be neat is to buy, 500 of those Nest things that are you just hang them up. All they need is electricity, and they go to your phone. Because I'll take 3 of them. So they're $200.
John, I'm itching to say something.
Yes, there are 2 different approaches to going to this. One would be what a lot of my clients do, and that would be to go out and solicit 2 or 3 proposals from different firms and tell them that you're going to have a special insert or section in your newsletter that you want to promote this and give the best rate possible. You're getting 2 or 3 to compete with each other. You're giving them an advertising medium and getting out. Critically, it does not put the POA or the organization in the process of selling security equipment to people, which has a significant liability attached to that. It's just providing that as vehicle. So when you say the other approach of let's go out and buy 500 cameras and then we resell them to people, that puts the POA at a financial risk, and if nobody buys the cameras, then you have 500 cameras that you can't sell.
Again.
And secondly, it puts the POA in a liability perspective of selling cameras, and even if we have disclaimers that, it's as is or whatever, if the camera doesn't work and they get broken into, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think probably.
And so there's, I think, a pretty easy way to approach this by getting, having in the newsletter some mailer, this is going to be security month or security quarter. Get 2 or 3 competitors to come in and tell them what you're doing, and they'll cut a really good deal for that special promotion. But the people will call the 1 of the 3 that they pick directly.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
think,
calling the POA to buy through the POA.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that we have stacks of cameras in the POA so somebody can come drop 250 or pick one up. What I was suggesting is talk to the security companies and say if there's 300 or whatever at this price, somebody comes in, signs up.
Yeah.
The transaction would occur between the owner and the security company. But it can be done the same exact way like you're talking about. Just get some competition going. Yeah.
Yeah, and that limits your trying to have a minimum.
Yeah.
Or because if you're trying to guarantee a minimum, then the price
you're stuck with
it. If you don't meet the 300, then you don't get the price.
And you're already committed.
And that way, I think you can get a pretty good impact by having some competition going.
Yeah.
And even drive the price down that way.
Even there's a little bit of liability in putting it in our newsletter.
I will have a disclaimer there.
So
we consider another approach of, some people like we put our security system in, we had the alarm system first, later on we decided we were ready to add cameras. Everybody likes different levels. How about if we hosted something like a security fair where we could get a few vendors that and get them to bring the prices down so that we have some bulk purchasing for our community, but have a security fair that offers some various
Can we
things.
get home stereo too?
Let's stick with security.
I like that idea. Hosting an event or
Somebody's got to
and get something going. And I just think we need to take some action. We've heard from folks, and instead of it doesn't do any good to say your claims are unfounded.
No, it's
really statistics say that you're wrong.
There's nothing wrong with it at the same time. We can serve hot dogs and like the community now. Have a
Well, we could have a palm tree or two, guys.
So what's the action? What are we gonna have next month with respect to that?
I will contact some companies and see if there's an interest in coming out too. Do something like that.
I think something like that needs to be held in the fall when school starts, because you get some of these people that come here for the winter, and that's when they show up.
And maybe there's some hot outside.
Yeah.
Can you come up with dates and within a couple of months time frame? Okay.
All right.
Same thing on 10D, discussion regarding updating IT systems. And this is, so I'm reading off of the board agenda that didn't make it in the package, and this is a good reason why. I think we need something that the board and, are you okay?
I'm giving blood for this outfit. I just had a scratch from the other day.
Daryl used to poke me with pins when I said okay.
He's a mean man. He's gonna beat on me.
So from with respect to
Toilet paper. Mama's got toilet paper.
No, this is.
Did not do that.
Well, this is a war injury from pruning that guy's yard.
Yeah, it is amazing.
no good deed
It's
goes
dangerous out there.
Okay, so I think on our IT system, maybe there's a better way to do our agenda. And what I'm looking for is something that we can put our agenda on our website. And we talked about this about other options for our billings and stuff like that. But on the most basic level, if we had a document, the board agenda document that I can go in, I can check it out, update it, check it back in electronically. You can go in, check it out, update it. It would avoid this, and that's what we do in our company is we're able to electronically check something out, put it back in, and it would
I
avoid
get what you're
this.
saying. When I was looking at this, it was like, this is for every household to be able, no, I get it now.
thank you.
Yeah.
But,
I
but
get
you would want board members to be able to add things to the agenda?
Why not?
Yeah, well, because you just went through this month by saying that you had to approve them.
I was gonna say.
So I can look at that.
Oh,
and
I see.
let me clarify that so it doesn't look like I'm the only one that puts things on this agenda. I'm clearly not.
Right.
This whole board
Which
puts
she
things.
has every month, you say, every month, she has that.
Yep.
So-
But Nancy, what I'm telling you is you don't have the updated copy. When I got asked, things were put on there, and it's not anyone's fault. There's a better way to do it with technology. The other thing is,
Sounds like a better question.
somebody cannot just, I'm not going to invite a speaker to come in here and speak without talking to you guys. And you guys polling the residents and all that. Nor should anybody else on this board. We're a board that works together on issues, and there's not just one person that controls this board. So with that said, yeah, if there was a document out there in all month, you know, you're sitting there, Carter, on your boat, and you come in and say, man, this thing's on my mind right now, you put it in there, and it shows up as Carter added this. We can discuss it amongst ourselves, and Maybeth has a deadline by the time it gets populated, so she's not having to field, 8 different emails.
What's it like in different colors and stuff? Or?
Sure, you can do it by track change.
I like that.
Yeah, so it make your job easier, make our job easier.
Looking
So.
good. That's a challenge. Thanks.
And then I'm also coming back to the issues and resolution log. We have to have that where folks call in, whatever it is, they call in, it gets an issue, and it's a resolution. I'm tired of dealing with the he said, she said. I want a resolution log. And it doesn't have to be public. It's not for somebody to, make false accusations and all that, but our staff needs a simple spreadsheet that's a document that allows us as board members, when somebody says it's a he said, she said type of accusation, I want to be able to walk in there and say, Joe Blow said he called you, and you say, well, here's what we did for Joe Blow. I don't want to be in the he said, she said business anymore. Okay. And again, I think we have a technology that allows us to do it. Okay. So, any discussion?
I'm going to say that could be a little bit difficult to administer, because if you asked me to write down every time I got a phone call from someone or an issue and make sure I put that in there, it's not going to happen. So I agree. I think we just need to find a happy medium, because there is no way you're still going to get some of those. Joe Blow said he called, because sometimes Joe Blow may have called to say hello and how you doing, and then turn around.
That's not the Joe Blows I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying. I know.
I'm talking about Joe Blows that I know have sent an email, and it's not resolved. Whether it's
I agree, but I would have a hard time documenting every single thing. I just think we need to, I think it's a good idea to get it started.
Let me put it this way. Document, if it's your, if you were in my company and I said, hey, we've got issues and unresolved things going on, I would recommend you have a resolution log. I'm going to leave it up to you to put on that resolution log what's important and what's not. Now, I've challenged you to do that. If Joe Blow comes up and says, look, here's the 3 emails I sent to Leslie and they're not taken care of. I'd say, Leslie, why didn't you protect yourself? That's what I'm saying. And the same thing for you to say, but hold on, I do have 3 responses to Joe Blow, and he just wasn't satisfied with my response. Now, that's Joe Blow's problem. And right now, we don't have anything. So I'm going, well, Joe Blow says this, and you say, well, Joe Blow, blah, 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 and I don't want to be in that situation anymore. And as a board member and as president, I'm asking for the resolution log that we talked about many times.
Are you
I think we
looking
can put
for
something together, I just be
a
careful.
call? So when somebody calls on the telephone, you want a record of what they had to say? Is that what you're driving at?
Yeah, Marvin, I think it's, again, I would leave it up to Maybeth and the staff, because here's what I know.
I'm just trying to figure out what you want.
That's right.
Yeah.
We do it with calls. We each have a little thing by our desk. And
Is it in one central location?
we each have one by our desk.
They each answer calls.
Yeah, we just,
It'd be unproductive to walk to the little station and standing at a call.
So why not put it on a network where you log into one resolution? Use IT, use technology to.
There's software, contact software on the market you can buy at CompUSA or wherever.
It's just, here's the deal. If we don't do it, we are going to pay the price. I'm not going to pay the price. We collectively are going to pay the price. Unless we do. We can fight it or we can do it.
We have to talk about that.
Let's look at some kind of contact. I agree. There's so many softwares out there right now where you can put the contacts in there, so if you just have to decide how you.
We do, when it comes to an issue on a property, we have a record in that property record. The notes are in there. It's sort of like my recap of what I did. That all is in the record on that particular property.
And that's all tied together with all this.
Isn't that something Josh did work on?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can have him come up with something for us.
Computer, whatever, master's computer, whatever communication.
I know groups that do it right now today in Excel.
But here's where you get into. So Daryl calls in about X Street, the property on X Street. Okay. And then Marvin turns around and he calls in on the property of X Street. Okay, so logically I'm thinking, okay, we're going to focus on X Street. And Daryl calls in about Y Street. And then Daryl calls in about Z Street. Now, should I file all that under Daryl because Daryl's the one calling in on them? Or should I have done it because I had two property owners on X Street over here? You literally wind up, because no longer is it an Excel thing, it's an access thing.
Yeah.
Because you've got to go into.
Yeah, it's not an Excel thing, but you already have a property database that allows you to log those calls at the address on X Street and the address on Y Street, and even put in that it was Daryl who called.
Yeah. Then you have the problem of now Daryl's making complaints against 3 different properties, and so the issue is Daryl.
We know who he is.
And so,
It does.
So we got to make sure that we're addressing.
But I mean, the software is already there.
And when it comes to emails, I've got the record of ones that I've.
Yeah, but emails, I get a bajillion emails. I bet a trillion emails because I never delete anything. And
I do too.
I don't to be Sherlock Holmes and go back 3 years and look at 400 emails. Who has the time to do it? And here's what I'm saying is if there's a resolution log, it's another checklist that says here John Bell called over here on this street, and it's a list that we filled the pothole and called John back and let him know resolved. And if you have a bunch of those that aren't taken care of, you need additional help. Or the other thing is, if John Bell calls 125 times and there's 5 other calls from different people, maybe it is John Bell. You know what I'm saying?
So what do you do then? Just blow off when they call?
No, but I might be able to call John and say, John, look, there's 125. Maybe he's irrational, maybe not. But I can tell you that right now it's like Josh said, it's all anecdotal.
Right. Yep.
So.
That.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion before we go into executive session? We're going to talk about personnel issues, contractual, monetary and financial obligations, and attorney consultations. So we don't think there's going to be any votes coming out of this executive session. So you're free to hang around outside and come back in, but we don't think we're going to vote on anything. John,
It's time for beverage.
Starry, starry night.